What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 10 WS. Chapter 181 Invisible Empire. Subsequently, be cautious and hopeful. Bai Chen breaks the space and walks out of the dark passage. With Nailu, Peishui, and Dongdashaka, they fell into the ice field. I didn't expect that. The territory of the pure Quincy is actually a vast plain of ice and snow. Nelu looked up, watching it fall from the sky. White snow continues to accumulate on the ground. And after feeling the biting cold wind blowing constantly in the air, I couldn't help but sigh. Original, in her expectation. As the base camp of pure Quincy. Since the mysterious shadow realm is hidden in Seraiti, then it must be as prosperous as Seraiti, right? I didn't expect that. Now comes into view. There is only an endless plain of ice and snow with no end in sight. Except for the ice and snow. Nailu didn't feel any breath nearby. Except for the different colors. Nailu doesn't even feel that she has left Hueco Mundo. The only difference between this ice field and a barren desert is that it changes from sand to white snow, that's all. But, Nelu's sigh, but was refuted by Bai Chen. Shaking his head, Bai Chen stretched out his hand and caught a falling snowflake. He explained calmly, currently, this ice and snow plain is just the most foreign-aid area in the Shadow Realm. And the true territory of the pure Quincy is in the silver frame city of the Invisible Empire. But, Bai Chen looked into the distance. With a firm tone, he said seriously, if I guess correctly. From the moment we fell into the ice field, the pure-blooded Quincy have sensed our existence. After all, this space was built by their manipulation of spirit children back then. Any foreign intruder will inevitably expose his whereabouts. Even though it was my first time coming to the shadow space. However, as a time traveler, Bai Chen can also make a rough guess. Not to mention, his strength and aura have long surpassed the scope of Shinigami. Even if Bai Chen wanted to hide his aura, he couldn't. And after hearing his words, Nailu was okay, she nodded silently and was ready to fight at any time. The two subordinate officers' expressions changed with fear. I can't help but feel fear and fear. To know, although they are also hostile species. However, for Manos Grande, the Quincy is the real mortal enemy. If he is killed by Shinigami in battle, then the final result is that the soul is purified by Zanpakutō, reincarnated into Soul Society, and becomes a resident of Rukongai. Once killed by a Quincy. That is physical transcendence, permanent death. It is impossible to be reborn in another form. Therefore, when I heard that I was about to be surrounded by pure Quincy, even with Bai Chen protecting me, Pei Shui and Dong Dachaka were still trembling with fear. It's not that they don't trust Bai Chen's strength. Even regular things like Ju, too, have been eliminated. That proves that Bai Chen's strength is beyond doubt. But, the enemies we face now are different. Not a single individual, but the entire purebred Quincy clan. I have tolerated this for thousands of years. A mysterious race that is always plotting to take revenge on the Shinigami. The two subordinate officers really didn't have much confidence. Being able to escape from here intact while being surrounded by them. At the same time, in the distance, the heart of the ice plains. Everything was just as Bai Chen expected. The moment they broke through space and invaded the shadow space. The whereabouts of everyone. As expected, the pure Quincy's immediately noticed it. At this time, Yinjia City, inside the Ice Crystal Palace. The piercing sirens sounded continuously and deafeningly. Enemy attack. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Red warning light. Breaking the peace of the past. Immediately, there was quite a commotion in the Ice Crystal Palace. At the same time, the Imperial Holy Soldiers stationed here were also allowed. And the powerful Star Cross Knights took it seriously. Quote question mark exclamation mark quote. What's going on? Did you hear that right? An enemy has invaded. Impossible. It has been nearly 1,000 years since the Shadow Realm was established back then. It has always been safe and sound. How could we suddenly be invaded by an alien force without any warning? This is something even the Shinigami cannot do. At this time, for the urgent sound of the siren. Be it ordinary soldiers or powerful men of the Knights of the Star Cross. Almost everyone. The first reaction was to express strong doubts. What's the situation? Enemy invasion. Impossible. The purebred Quincy would rather believe that there is something wrong with the alarm system than think that there is really an external invasion. After all, it has maintained tranquility and peace for nearly 1,000 years. It can't be broken all of a sudden, right? Moreover, the basis for the birth of the Shadow Realm. It is built in the dark shadow of the Seraiti building. That is to say, look at the entire Shinigami world. Except for the Shinigami of Gote 13. Two other species, humans, and Manos Grande. It is impossible for it to appear out of thin air. But the Shinigami side has long been monitored at all times. Even the Technology Development Bureau does not exist in the Shadow Realm. Therefore, after excluding Shinigami, the identity of the intruder immediately became a mystery. All the pure-blooded Quincy really can't understand. Who is it, and who is it, who can invade the shadow space silently? To this end, all members of the Star-Crossed Knights quickly held an emergency meeting. These 20-some captain-level combat capabilities. They gathered in the hall and started a discussion with different opinions. Everyone, keep quiet for now. Don't worry, stand on the high platform. Hashward, who has blonde hair and blue eyes, an indifferent expression, and wears a white cloak with a 5-pointed star, said in a deep voice with a calm face. As the entire Invisible Empire. In terms of identity, status, and strength, he is the first person second only to Yuhabach. Hashward has the absolute right to speak. At the same time, he is also the highest level of the entire Star-Crossed Knights. Hashward, what do you say? Is this an accident, or is there really a foreign invader? Offstage, asked a member of the Knights of the Star Cross. In response to this, Hashward's tone remained unchanged and he answered Daliang slowly and carefully. As for the reason why the alarm sounded, I just learned from the security department. There are indeed a few uninvited guests in the outer areas of the ice and snow plain. These words fell. The whole palace was in an uproar. The expressions of the purebred Quincy present instantly became extremely subtle. They didn't expect it anyway. After thousands of years, there are secrets about the shadow space and the Invisible Empire. Is it finally going to be exposed? Chapter 182 Disaster. Advertise here. Hashward, can the alert system specifically identify the species identities of the intruders? After the uproar. Decorated mask with wings. The body is burly and tall, wearing a dark red cloak. The appearance looks like a man of a classical guard. Frowning. Walked out from the crowd. Compared to the other pure-blooded Quincy present. This powerful man obviously didn't have that much respect and awe when talking to Hashward. More of an equal tone. In this regard, the other members of the Star-Crossed Knights did not have any dissatisfaction or complaints at all, they all thought this was a matter of course. And the identity of this guard man. Astonishingly, it is one of the 4 guards under Yuhabach. 893, Heart of the Soul King, Valkyrie. A strong man who has been endowed with miraculous power and can be resurrected almost infinitely. And faced with Valkyrie's question, Hashward shook his head coldly and did not give the answer he wanted. Valkyrie, I'm sorry. Due to the long distance and the impact of the ice and snow climate, the warning system can only detect the Reiatsu fluctuations and cannot conduct specific analysis. And the current information is. As for the number of intruders, there are 4 people in total. When Hashward informed the news. Below, more than 20 members of the Star-Crossed Knights frowned. Very surprised by this number. What? Hashward, you're not kidding. It's just 4 people, how dare you invade the shadow space rashly? What on earth do these arrogant and stupid invaders think of the Invisible Empire? Valkyrie sneered, a sullen roar of extreme displeasure. As one of the 3 most powerful people among the purebred Quincy clan. Over the years, if it were not limited by various conditions and reasons. Valkyrie is confident, relying on his special power of holy words. Even alone, a man breaks into Saraiti. Just by relying on attrition and hand-to-hand combat, you can compete with Gote 13. This is the arrogance and confidence of Valkyrie. At the same time, he is also one of the most hostile to Shinigami among all people. Therefore, after hearing the news revealed by Hashward, Valkyrie was startled for a moment, then laughed angrily. From this moment on, he swore that no matter what, he would catch the hateful intruders. Then use the most cruel and violent means. Put them to death in trial. Then, Hashward continued, Valkyrie, because of your special status, you are His Majesty's most trusted member of the bodyguard. Therefore, until His Majesty truly wakes up and sends back his full strength, you must not expose your strength easily. Hashward looked up, standing on the high platform, looking at Valkyrie, he warned coldly. And when mentioning Yuhabach, there were obvious emotional fluctuations in Hashward's words. There is expectation, there is awe, there is admiration. At this point in time, we are waiting for Yuhabach to be resurrected with full health. This is the top priority of the entire Invisible Empire. Unfortunately, but suddenly they were attacked by enemies. But they didn't know that Richen came uninvited this time. It will be given to the purebred Quincy clan that has been hidden for thousands of years. Bringing a brand new disaster. Chapter 183 Hunting Captain, Kaluji. Advertise here. Then, the meeting continues. Hashward looked at everyone and suggested with a cold expression. If I remember correctly, Kaluji and his men are currently patrolling the outskirts of the ice and snow plains. What do you think about letting him deal with the intruders? Because the specific situation of the enemy is not clear yet. Out of caution, Hashward did not want the purebred Quincy to dispatch on a large scale. First, it's easy to alert the snake without saying anything. Secondly, because the number of intruders is too small. There is a high probability that it will be a bait. Therefore, if you go out rashly, you may fall into the enemy's trap. Although Hashward didn't believe it, the outside world, even the Gote 13, really can suddenly invade shadow space. But just to be on the safe side, he still decided to let the Empire hunt captain. He was given the sacred word, J, which means prison cherub. Leading the hunting troops under his command. Go to the ice and snow plain and deal with these intruders. No comment. No comment. I don't have any objection either. Just leave this matter to Chiluji. His holy writing ability can perfectly deal with foreign invasion. None of the more than 20 members of the Star-Crossed Knights objected, and they all agreed with Hasward's proposal. Ever since, this emergency meeting ends here. In the eyes of the vast majority of purebred Quincy, they actually didn't attach much importance to this so-called invasion. It was just a peaceful life for the past nearly 1,000 years. What it caused was just a trivial, small wave. Soon after. This side of the ice and snow plain. What's the situation? Suddenly encountered an enemy invasion. What are you doing? The Shinigami of Gote 13, haven't they always been unaware of our existence? I never thought. One day, the shadow space will be invaded. At this time, somewhere on the ice plains, an extremely unhappy voice sounded. The speaker had a thin face and was wearing the same White Star Cross Quincy uniform as Hasward. This guy, it is Karuja. The ability of holy words is to create an unbreakable prison. Unless he unlocks it himself. Or the trapped person has the blood of a pure Quincy. Otherwise, it will be almost impossible to escape. Therefore, inside the Invisible Empire, Karuji is also known as the prison-like man. He has the power to judge and imprison prisoners. And at this time, Chiluj had received the order. Hasward ordered him to do whatever it takes. Kill the intruders without mercy, and then bring their bodies back to Silver Shelf City. Captain Karuji, what should we do now? Just when Karuji finished complaining unhappily. One of the subordinates in the hunting team asked respectfully. Haha, do you still need to ask? We were hunting at that time. Karuji sneered. Then he raised one hand. Utilize the pure Quincy's powerful, spiritual clustering ability. After condensing the blue longbow and arrows, it launched towards the distant place, which was deserted and covered with ice and snow. Call out. Divine destruction, streaking through the air. After sparks burst into the air. Finally, it hit accurately, shot into the snow, and exploded. Caused a huge explosion. It instantly swallowed up the surrounding frost and snowflakes. It shows that Karuji's strength is superior to that of ordinary Shinigami captains. Captain Karuji, your holy destruction is much more powerful than before. Using it to deal with intruders is more than enough. The subordinates praised respectfully. Hee. This is why Hasward ordered me to lead the team alone to deal with the invaders. Karuji grinned confidently. Looking into the distance, he waved his hand and ordered. Everyone, let's go. To the borderlands of shadow space. We must arrest all the damn intruders in the shortest possible time. Following Ji Liji's order, please give me flowers. Under his command, the Invisible Empire hunting team has hundreds of purebred Quincies in total. They all followed his footsteps and disappeared together. Relying on the high-speed movement of Fei Lian Zhao, quickly set off towards the outer ice. And at this time, just after the hunting team started taking action, Bai Chen, on his side, relies on the powerful eye power of the eternal Mangekyo and the powerful perception ability that has reached the peak of Shinigami. Even across a long distance, Bai Chen was still the first to sense the enemy's movements. Oh, as expected, from the moment we set foot on this ice field, our whereabouts have been exposed. The corners of Bai Chen's mouth turned up. A playful arc was raised. According to his perception, the number of Reiatsu rushing towards this direction was actually as many as hundreds of breaths. There are so many. It was beyond Bai Chen's expectation. But, it's just a surprise. This does not mean that Richin will have any fear or tension. The opposite of, the greater the number of enemies. He became more and more satisfied. Otherwise, just a few pure-blooded Quincy. It would be too boring to drive a Gundam to torture them. Master Bai Chen, what do we do next? Peishui Donde Chaka asked with a nervous expression. Their mentality is completely different from Bai Chen. Everyone is fearful and uneasy about the upcoming enemy. Don't say anything else. This is the base camp of pure-blooded Quincy. If they are surrounded, they only have Jillian's strength. It is simply impossible to break through the siege. Pado. Bai Chen's next words. This surprised everyone. Nilu. Quote. Dong de Chaka. Facing the biting cold wind. Bai Chen raised the corners of his mouth and looked at the three of them with a playful smile. Kaido. Later. Do you want to try fighting a pure Quincy? Chapter 184 Surrounded. Gua Sha. Time flies. With Bai Chen, Nilu and others waiting in place. Finally, the hunting team responsible for the pursuit appeared within sight. Brush, 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 along with the sound of broken fans one after another. At the end of this ice and snow plain, a large number of pure Quincy figures appeared, walking densely on the ice field. Uniformed with white uniform, white military cap with 5-pointed star logo. And, the blue spirit sun Changwei symbolizes the identity of the Quincy. #J. Pure-blooded Quincy from the Invisible Empire. I didn't expect there to be so many of them. The corners of Bai Chen's mouth turned up. A playful arc was raised. As a Shinigami, in the battles he has experienced in the past, the only enemies Bai Chen has experienced are Manos Grande and Arankar. And now, the opponents suddenly changed. They have been replaced by a pure-blooded Quincy clan that has been hidden for thousands of years, is much stronger than before, and has mastered many black technologies. In this regard, even with Bai Chen's strength, The enemies under Captain Shinigami are like trash fish in his eyes. For the coming battle, Bai Chen was still interested instantly. No matter how, even through the eternal Mangekyo, it can be seen that the strength of this group of pure-blooded Quincy is not strong. But, as long as there are enough people, it's enough for Bai Chen to enjoy fighting new enemies. But, compared with Bai Chen's indifference and expectation, behind them are Nailu, Peishui, and Dong Chaka. There was another extremely solemn expression on his face. No, there are so many people here. Dongdashaka's eyes widened in horror. It's over, it's dangerous now. We are surrounded. Unless we kill all the pure Quincies. Otherwise, it would be impossible to leave this vast ice field. Because of fear, it can be heard that Dongdashaka's voice is obviously trembling. Obviously, he was almost scared out of his wits. After all, a pure Quincy is Manos Grande's natural enemy. Once the body is pierced by the spirit submersible arrows launched by them, the result will be that the soul will be scattered. Complete death. But now, take a look at it. The number of pure Quincies is countless. What's more, this is the home of the Invisible Empire. The difficulty is even higher. Yes, the next step is to rely on Mr. Bai Chen. Peishui's eyes flashed fiercely. When he looked at Bai Chen's back, his eyes were full of enthusiasm. Although I was panicking inside. However, Peishui still firmly believes that Bai Chen will protect their safety. With a powerful power beyond the scope of Shinigami, he can easily crush all pure Quincies. And at this time, as the distance between the two parties continues to shrink, the pure-blooded Quincy of the Invisible Empire's hunting party. Traces of Bai Chen and others were also discovered. Report to the captain. Sure enough, we found a suspicious person ahead. But their combination is really weird. A guard responsible for reconnaissance. He came to Chiluji and reported respectfully. Incredible combination. What do you mean? I heard what my subordinates said. Chiluji frowned, and then took out a pair of binoculars from his arms. Then look at the conditions of the ice sheet. Just took a look. After discovering the specific identity of the intruder, it turned out to be Shinigami and Arankar teaming up. Kuruji couldn't help but be shocked. My eyes widened in surprise. I didn't expect it. After 1,000 years, when I met Shinigami again, I would actually team up with the rival Manos Grande. Faced with such a wonderful combination, I'm afraid His Majesty won't be able to help but sigh after seeing it. Lift up your glasses. The corners of Ji Liji's mouth raised in a playful arc. Through the viewing distance within the telescope. After discovering the positions of Bai Chen, Pei Shui, and Dong Dashaka, Kai Luji found it even more interesting. Through the first intuitive judgment, Ji Liji immediately realized that the relationship between Nailu and others and Bai Chen was obviously followers and masters. That is to say, 3 Arankar are actually followed by a Shinigami. Such a strange situation really shocked Kaluji. Captain Kilihei. Currently, the hunting team members have all taken their positions. Please give your instructions next. And just when Ji Liji sighed, all members of the hunting team, hundreds of purebred Quincy, were all dispersed and standing. Everyone holds a blue spiritual bow in their hands, aiming at Bai Chen and others, ready to launch the sacred destruction at any time. Good. Then just follow the usual practice. First, within the encircling range, let's launch a round of volley fire and bombing on the prey. Stop smiling. Kaluji's expression was indifferent. Senrin's words revealed a cold and murderous attitude. Shock is one thing, but this doesn't mean, as a member of the Knights of the Star Cross, Chiruja will be kind to his enemies. Now, this Imperial hunting captain. The only thought in my mind is to treat Bai Chen and the others as if they were elk, to besiege and hunt them. That's all. Then, following Kuruji's order, the hundreds of pure-blooded Quincy present pulled the bowstrings in their hands at the same time. Boom. Holy destruction blasted out. The dazzling light instantly illuminated the entire ice sheet. This made this originally deserted wilderness of ice and snow filled with only biting cold air. There was an aura of danger for a moment. But when the hunting team takes the initiative to attack, opposite me, Bai Chen saw everything, shook his head and said expressionlessly. It's undeniable, although the pure-blooded Quincy are numerous and have formed an encirclement. But an offensive of this level is only worthy of scraping. In plain words, revealing contempt and confidence. Regarding being surrounded, Bai Chen had no emotions in his heart. Even in his opinion, hundreds of thousands of sacred things were lost. In his eyes, it is completely transparent. So weak that it can't even count as an attack. Chapter 185 Splitting Void Barrier, blocking out the sky and the sun. Advertise here. Master Bai Chen, what should I do? So many spirit arrows are bombarding us together. Once it hits and detonates together, the area where we are located will immediately be swallowed up by the flames of the explosion. Look within sight. An almost endless amount of divine destruction. Pei Shui and Dong Dachaka fell again. While trembling, he quickly asked Bai Chen for help. You 3, please step back. Leave this battle to me. Later, you just need to be quiet and observe the fighting methods of the purebred Quincy. White Captain Howry. In the cold wind, there was a sound of hunting. Bai Chen ordered with a calm expression. Okay. 0.22 inches. Come on, Mr. Bai Chen. The rest is up to you. After receiving the order, including Nelu, the three of them retreated together in tacit agreement. He quickly retreated to a safe area further away. And at this time, over time, the destruction of hundreds of saints is already close at hand. It's about to explode. At this moment, Bai Chen recited the poem calmly. A long Bakudo chant came from his mouth. The proud son of heaven, the city wall made of iron, the dragon moves, the lion roars, the tiger roars, the wolf runs, cut off the heaven and the earth before it collapses. Bakudo number 81, splitting void. As the chants fall, the air in front of Bai Chen was originally filled with the biting cold wind from the south. But the next moment, boom, after a loud noise. An extremely tall and majestic transparent light curtain. Like an insurmountable chasm, it stood in front of Bai Chen. For a moment, it's like having absolute defense. Blocking the air, intercepting the cold air, blocking Bai Chen's face. And the splitting void barrier is almost towering from the sky. Because it brings extremely shocking visual effects. It immediately caused an exclamation. This is too awesome. This is the first time I've seen Shinigami's Kido, and I didn't expect it to be so exaggerated. Pei Shui raised his head. His eyes widened in shock. Once again he couldn't help but send out a barrier. Because Bai Chen's spiritual power is too powerful. This makes the scale and volume of the splitting void barrier far larger than other ordinary splitting void barriers, almost several times larger. In the impression of Pei Shui and others, Shinigami's Kido, although very powerful, shouldn't be so scary, right? Pei Shui, Dong de Chaka, it seems that you don't know that Kido's strength depends on the strength of Shinigami's own spiritual power. And Master Bai Chen's current spiritual power has obviously exceeded the scope of Shinigami. So, it's not surprising that the Kido he released would be so powerful. Compared to the two subordinate officers, Nelu, who is a Vasto Lord level Arankar, is obviously much calmer. She had already guessed it. Bai Chen will definitely use Kido to stop the siege of the pure-blooded Quincy. So, Master Nailu, in the subsequent battle, Master Bai Chen will also use Kido to kill the pure Quincy, right? Dongchaka asked expectantly. Maybe. Nailu nodded and muttered in a low voice, but Kido is just the most basic ability among Bai Chen's many skills. Just like how he crushed Ulquiorra before. I believe that Master Bai Chen will do it again this time. With extraordinary power, the entire purebred population was wiped out. In Nailu's words, full of admiration for Bai Chen 773. Unknowingly, although I have not been following Bai Chen for a long time. But, she has spoken from her heart. Recognize, worship, and admire Bai Chen. In Nailu's eyes, Bai Chen is omnipotent and invincible. So, from the moment you set foot on this ice sheet, Nailu has never worried that this man will not protect her. At the same time, during the conversation between the three of Nailu. Boom. Those hundreds of sacred destructions that were speeding towards me. It bombarded the splitting void barrier, causing a terrifying explosion. And because the explosion energy is too majestic. As a result, the fire soared into the sky, and dazzling burning sparks quickly spread to the surrounding areas. While swallowing countless snowflakes, this vast white ice field was instantly submerged in a sea of red. Chapter 186. Holy Destruction Arrow. I can do it too. Advertise here. What? Faced with the collective attack of the hunting pair, how could they be blocked so easily? This guy's Kido is too weird. Opposite. When watching helplessly. Hundreds of thousands of sacred annihilations, after bombarding the transparent light curtain, not only caused fire after the explosion. There is no movement at all. The Invisible Empire hunting team members headed by Kaluji all opened their eyes in shock and couldn't help but exclaim. Thought. Bai Chen and others, this strange combination of Shinigami and Arankar just happened to break in from Hueco Mundo. That's why it accidentally invaded the interior of the shadow space. I didn't expect that. Bai Chen shocked everyone as soon as he made his move. Even though Karuj is a member of the powerful Star Cross Knights, he possesses power that surpasses that of ordinary Shinigami captains. But, looking at the sky and the sun, the splitting void barrier almost reaches the sky. At this moment, Kaluji's brows were completely knitted together. Deep inside, I was filled with a strong sense of uneasiness. Intuition told him, Bai Chen is very strong. Not just a Shinigami captain wearing a white haori. But it is something that should not be underestimated. A powerful force that can even threaten the entire Invisible Empire. This is tricky. Captain, what should we do now? Watch the smoke dissipate. A guard soldier looked at Kaluji and asked in a panic. Since the salvo can't hit him, it seems we can only fight at close range. When it comes to getting close, the purebred Quincy frowned. His tone of voice became noticeably less confident. To know, draw the bow and shoot the arrow. Take long-range shots. From thousands of years ago, this has been the consistent fighting method of pure-blooded Quincy. But in close combat, not only will the winning rate decrease, and it also exacerbates unnecessary risks. Therefore, unless it is absolutely necessary, otherwise, purebred Quincies would not be willing to fight in close combat. Snort. Don't panic. The battle has just begun. It is undeniable that this Shinigami's Kido is indeed more surprising. Karuji snorted coldly. Standing on top of the ice sheet, Yuguang looked at the white background and said. But, I'm sure, such a huge keto was released at once. The guy just now must have consumed a lot of spiritual energy. So next, continue to stand still. Have a spiritual competition with him. Kuruji gritted his teeth. Almost in a roaring manner, he gave the order to continue fighting, but still continued the previous battle strategy. All pure-blooded Quincy stay put. Continue to draw the Lingxi holy bow and aim at Bai Chen and others from a distance. With a lot of divine destruction. Carry out bombings one after another until Bai Chen's spiritual power is exhausted. However, just after Chiruji gave the order. But what happened next instantly shocked the king, him. At this moment, within everyone's sight, Bai Chen, who was standing with his hands behind his back, suddenly raised his arms. Immediately afterwards, in full view, he repeated the actions of the pure-blooded Quincy at the beginning. Perform spirit gathering. He actually condensed a black spiritual bow. And this move, such a weird picture, it instantly caused a sensation and shocked all pure-blooded Quincy. Chapter 187 Sero destroys the arrow. Advertise here. This is Black Sacred Destruction. How is this possible? A Shinigami captain, how can he control the combat skills of a purebred annihilator clan? It's unbelievable. At this time, when I saw Bai Chen's hand, the one condensed by dark spiritual power, the special black holy bow moment, including Chiruja, all members of the Invisible Empire hunting team, everyone's eyes widened in horror, unable to believe this scene. Why, a Shinigami captain, the purebred Quincy clan and the 1,000-year-old enemy of the Invisible Empire. Oh 4. But in front of the enemy. Show off their skills in person. This situation can no longer be described as outrageous. 603. It simply subverts the three concepts. It brings an unbearable deep shock to every pure Quincy. And makes them all hate it with itch. And at this time, just when everyone was amazed. In Bai Chen's hand, the holy bow of Spirit Sun condenses and takes shape. He raised his hand expressionlessly and aimed accurately at the area opposite, where Kiliji and his men were. Black Sero, a soft drink. Bai Chen pulled the bow string hard. In an instant, at the front end of the holy bow of Lingxi, a black light of death appeared. It was accompanied by an aura of destruction. This caused the surrounding air to undergo distortions visible to the naked eye. It seemed as if it could not withstand this destructive force. And this scene, especially Black Sero, the fusion with divine destruction. It was like a bombshell, once again causing exclamations. And this time, it's not just pure-blooded Quincy. Nailu and the two subordinate officers behind him were also shocked and dumbfounded. Ah, you read that right. This is the Black Sero that only Espada is qualified to control. I didn't expect. As a Shinigami, he can actually use Sero. And he even exaggeratedly combined the skills of Sero and pure-blooded Quincy. Peishui, Dong de Chaka, the three of them, including Nailu, were stunned. Everyone's eyes reflected the Black Sero light, and they were filled with wonder from the bottom of their hearts. Original. The fact that a CAD Shinigami can launch Sero is outrageous enough. But now, Bai Chen also played new tricks. He actually combined Sero and Holy Death Arrow together. This whole new skill set, and the terrifying destructive energy contained in Sero's destruction, immediately led Nailu and three others. Once again refreshed my impression of Bai Chen. This man, it is truly omnipotent. At the same time, he controls the combat capabilities of the three opposing races, Shinigami, Manos Grande, and purebred Quincy. This is a transcendent person that can only be found in legends. It's something that can only be done. It seems. It was just a false alarm on our part before. With Master Bai Chen here, no matter how many enemies there are, even the entire Invisible Empire will come out in full force. It will never cause any harm to us as invaders. The corners of Nailu's mouth rose. He looked at Bai Chen's back with admiration. At this time, she felt very safe in her heart. No more worries. Instead, he is looking forward to it when Sero is launched. What astonishing damage will be caused. It is very possible that, in one fell swoop, the entire Invisible Empire hunting team will be destroyed. Hundreds of people were all wiped out. Buried forever on this ice sheet. Chapter 188 Desperate Kuruji. Pei Shui, Dong de Chaka, just wait and see. Once Bai Chen pulls the bow string, Sero will be fired. Then the entire Invisible Empire hunting team will be wiped out in an instant. This is bound to happen. Look at Bai Chen's back. Nailu's beautiful eyes turned and she said with a fiery gaze. After witnessing Bai Chen's powerful power one after another, Nailu has turned into a fanatical fangirl. The emotion placed on Bai Chen is far from being as simple as loyalty, but fanatical worship and pursuit from the heart. If, after being cured by Bai Chen before, the reason why Nailu chose to follow her was mostly just to repay her kindness. So, Nello now, it is completely dead set. From now on, I only have eyes for Bai Chen. And at this moment, in Nailu's expectant eyes, Sero, glowing with the dim light of death, disappeared. After drawing a dark arc in midair, the extremely precise bombardment hit the area where the pure-blooded Quincy were. The next moment, boom, a deafening bang, making the entire plane of ice The violent vibrations continued and triggered an avalanche. And as the black Sero exploded, the energy containing the aura of destruction turned into a torrent of darkness, sweeping and spreading across the ice sheet. Just less than a moment. It drowned everything, makes the entire shadow space completely occupied by the black flash. The whole world is in darkness, as if it is about to be destroyed. And this scene, because it brings a strong visual impact. Therefore, Nailu and the other three couldn't help but exclaimed again. This is too strong. It's just one arrow. This piece of ice sheet was bombarded indiscriminately. Almost all pure-blooded Quincy figures have disappeared. Nailu was shocked. Pei Shui opened her mouth in shock. Dong Deshaka was dumbfounded and stood there. At this time, within the sight of the three of them, originally there was only a plain of pure white ice and snow. At this moment, there is black flash everywhere, endless and no end in sight. And what's even more shocking is the entire Invisible Empire hunting party. The figures of hundreds of people have all disappeared. Or because his body was blown away, he was buried in the ruins of the earth. Or else he would be blown away directly in the explosion. Along with the ice and snow, it melted in the light of the fire. Please give me flowers. It is to linger on. Although he was lucky enough to save a small life. However, due to the serious injuries, he fell to the ground dying. I couldn't stand up again for a while. All in all. At this time, the purebred Quincy were in an extremely bad situation. It was supposed to be in the role of a hunter. They hunt the intruders. But because of the darkness shot by Bai Chen, Sero was destroyed. Point 0. Almost fell into the situation of direct group annihilation. And at this time, just like Nailu et al., when I felt extremely shocked. Among the devastated ruins of the ice field, the hunting team members also heard the desperate screams they had never heard before. It's terrible. It's terrible. What an amazing and terrifying destructive power this is. The power contained in the destruction of Sero just now is stronger than Captain Kilya and the other Knights of the Star Cross. I'm afraid, looking at the entire Invisible Empire, there is only one person, Your Majesty. You are qualified to compete with that Shinigami. At this time, all purebred Quincy members, their emotions are on the verge of collapse, and their hearts are extremely desperate. Not just ordinary players. Even Kuruji, the captain, also felt desperate. Chapter 189 Arrogant Confrontation. Advertise here. The ruins of ice and snow were filled with howls. The purebred Quincy who survived the explosion were all frightened and looked extremely embarrassed. They endured the severe pain all over their bodies. In a state of embarrassment, he struggled to crawl out of the ruins, looking towards the other side with eyes full of fear. Terrible. Bai Chen is simply a monster. A Shinigami captain. Not only did he display the spirit concentration in front of them, but he also weirdly incorporated Black Sero into the arrows. This leads to the divine destruction emitted by Bai Chen. After the explosion, both its scale and power were almost 1,000 times stronger than ordinary sacred destruction. Honestly, if it weren't for the large number of people in the hunting team. And every 853 person used the static blood equipment to resist before falling to the ground. If not, the number of casualties is not just what it is now. It is very possible that the worst-case scenario is that the entire army is annihilated. Hateful. This damn Captain Shinigami, who the hell is he? At this moment, among the chaotic crowd, the roar of Chiluji's teeth was heard. As a hunting captain, he is a member of the Knights of the Star Cross. Chiluji's appearance at the moment was no better than that of ordinary team members. Not only the military cap on his head was blown through. Even the special white imperial uniforms that symbolized the identity of core cadres were riddled with holes due to the explosion. The whole person looks very embarrassed. Not at all like the high-spirited attitude he had when he first appeared on the stage. At this time, in Kuruji's eyes, only bitter hostility remains. When I looked at Cypher from far away, I felt extremely fearful in my heart. To know, ever since the battle between the Shinigami and the Quincy led by Yuhabach ended 1,000 years ago. This shadow space was secretly established by the remaining pure-blooded Quincy under Shinigami's nose. It's been a long time since any fighting broke out. What Chiluji didn't expect was, as the first intruder, Bai Chen's strength is so terrifying. This simply subverts his three views. And the past is in Kuruji's cognition. The Shinigami captains of Gote 13, except for the chief captain and a few captains such as Unohana Retsu, Hiraku Shunsui, and Jashiro Yukataki. Other people, ordinary Shinigami captain. In the eyes of Chiluji, they are just garbage. He was completely dismissive and didn't take Captain Shinigami seriously. So, just at the beginning of our meeting. Even at the same time, Bai Chen was wearing the white Captain Haori, and he could immediately recognize him as a Shinigami captain. J.A. Chiluji's attitude, still extremely arrogant, ordered his subordinates to surround and hunt Bai Chen and others. That's why we have such tragic results today. Atto. Just as Chiluji's mood fluctuated violently, while he was looking at Bai Chen carefully. Opposite, white feathers flutter. The dead tyrant's hunting suit made a sound. Bai Chen stood with his hands behind his hands and looked across the way with a calm expression. Invisible Empire, a member of the Knights of the Star Cross. The code name of the holy text is J, and the symbolic ability is prison. Kaluji, if you guessed correctly, you will be very curious at this moment. Why can I invade the shadow space? The corners of Bai Chen's mouth turned up. Eternal Mangekyo's majestic pupil power was transmitted all the way through the icy air, firmly locking Karuji's figure. See all his power clearly. Quote. Captain Shinigami. How on earth did you do that? Also, according to the current intelligence, Gote 13 should be focusing on the Hueco Mundo expedition at the moment, right? How could they find and invade the territory of our invisible empire? Chiluji frowned. Because Bai Chen killed Tusen Kanami in this world. And replaced him as the new captain of the 9th Division. This series of things, all happened recently, so. Chiluji didn't know at all that Bai Chen was not the captain of Shinigami before. He basically knew nothing about Bai Chen. Do you want a reason? Bai Chen sneered. First of all, you must be qualified and get my approval. For Killy. After Bai Chen inquired about it, he quickly looked away and lost interest. It is undeniable that, as the hunting captain of the Invisible Empire, Karuja's strength is indeed very powerful. He is superior to the ordinary Shinigami captain. But, that's all. In Bai Chen's eyes, it's unbearable. Compared to the Black Wing Demon who returned to the 2nd level, it can be said that he is far behind in strength. And Bai Chen relies on the complete Susanoo. With just one blow, the world was created and the Black Wing Demon was violently wiped out. It's even less likely that he would take Chiluji seriously. I never thought that such a day would come. Shinigami from Gote 13 would actually be so arrogant. He stroked his round glasses. Karuji narrowed his eyes. He saw Cypher's disdainful look in his eyes. An unknown fire welled up in my heart. All along, because it has been hiding in the dark for thousands of years, and constantly accumulating 2.6 energy. Therefore, the purebred Quincy's are growing day by day. As his strength recovers and improves, Shinigami becomes less and less important. If Bai Chen hadn't suddenly invaded the shadow space. B. In Chiluji's cognition, Shinigami, Serai T, Gote 13. They are all prey of the invisible empire, waiting to be harvested by His Majesty at any time. But now, Bai Chen not only invaded, and he also showed great strength, as well as a rude and arrogant attitude towards the purebred Quincy clan. This made Chiluji feel very unhappy. He vowed that no matter what happens later, Bai Chen must pay a heavy price for his arrogance. Chapter 190 Unscathed. So, it seems that until now, you still can't accept the fact that the secrets that your invisible empire has painstakingly protected for thousands of years were easily cracked by an outsider, right? He saw Karuji's sullen expression in his eyes. The curvature of the corners of Bai Chen's mouth deepened, even though the other pure-blooded Quincy around him had formed an encirclement during this gap. But Bai Chen's aloof posture, especially that calm look, still overwhelming the entire audience with momentum, suppressing this vast ice field. Of course, it is precisely because Bai Chen is too strong. While bringing fear to the pure Quincy's, it also deeply stimulated their self-esteem. So, everyone hears it, then take action. Chiluji gritted his teeth and roared angrily. And following his order, those pure-blooded Quincy who still had 22 combat abilities pulled the bowstrings in their hands. Another new salvo. Countless sacred losses hit Bai Chen from all directions. What happened? This time is different from last time. With such a close distance, Mr. Bai Chen will be fine, right? Opposite. In its original position, when everything within sight was occupied by dense arrows. Pei Shui gritted his teeth. He couldn't help but show an anxious look. When looking at Bai Chen's back, he couldn't help but said worriedly. And in contrast to him, Ni showed up without changing her expression, looking calm. Don't worry, don't panic. Nailu comforted her calmly. Sir Bai Chen, you are not the kind of person who is rash and impulsive. What's more, Aizen once said, the battle in the Shinigami world, it depends on the strength of the spiritual power of both parties in the battle. That is to say, I'm sure that purebred Quincy might not even be able to break through defenses. Although Nailu's tone was calm. But he is full of confidence in Bai Chen. She always believed that Bai Chen would end this battle with an absolute crushing advantage just like he did in Hueco Mundo. Nailu just finished speaking. The next second, countless sacred objects were struck and exploded. Boom. A deafening bang resounded throughout the ice sheet. In an instant, a huge wave of smoke and dust rose violently into the sky. Bai Chen's figure instantly enveloped him. Did you make it? We should kill him this time. Watching the violent explosion, Karuji grinned excitedly, with gloating in his eyes. Just now, he has always felt extremely annoyed because of Bai Chen's words, and he wanted to kill Bai Chen immediately to vent his anger. Now, with the explosion of divine destruction, especially after seeing Bai Chen's figure disappearing into the smoke and waves, Karuji was in a good mood. Suddenly I felt proud. However, it didn't take long for him to be happy. What happened next was like a bolt from the blue, instantly making Karuji feel desperate again. Is this the only one? I have deliberately let you off the hook and allowed you to launch an attack at close range. It seems that the combat power of the pure-blooded Quincy clan is even more rubbish than I expected. Suddenly, in the midst of smoke and dust, Bai Chen's disdainful mocking voice came out. After hearing this voice, Kaluji's expression instantly froze, his eyes widened in disbelief, and he exclaimed in disbelief. Are you still alive? How can this be? With such a level of offensive, even members of the Star-Crossed Knights who are equal to me may not be able to survive. Captain Shinigami. Why on earth are you 277 still alive? Kaluji gritted his teeth and roared. This time, his mood was not just as simple as shock. Instead, his eyes were bloodshot and his gaze became malicious. Hysterical roar. Kaluji couldn't accept that the hunting team lost twice in a row. And what made him despair the most was. It was during this interval when Kaluji was roaring angrily. Bai Chen's figure slowly emerged from the smoke. Not just unscathed. And all over the body. No injuries at all, even the Death Tyrant costume and Captain Howery are all intact. Yes, everything is just as Nelu said. Even though they tried their best to besiege, the pure-blooded Quincy couldn't even break Bai Chen's defense. The disparity between the two sides. It has reached a point of jaw-dropping. Chapter 191. Kill instantly with one knife. Advertise here. What's this? Those black armors surrounding him. Is it the static blood outfit of our pure-blooded Quincy clan? No. But it's not Zanpakutō's power. After the anger. Karuji soon found out. Bai Chen's body suddenly flashed with a black halo. In less than a moment, a ring-shaped armor appeared next to Bai Chen. Looking from a distance, obviously Bai Chen didn't pull out Zanpakutō at all. But he seemed to have activated his ability and was shrouded in a huge shadow of darkness. It gave the pure-blooded Quincy a feeling. That is, Bai Chen seems to have mastered the static blood outfit. But this strange power is different from the static blood suit. However, to Chaluji's horrified roar, Bai Chen did not intend to explain, but continued to release the majestic pupil power, causing the complete body Susanoo to quickly condense and take shape. Quickly, in Kaluja, and other pure-blooded Quincy looked at them in fear. A behemoth like a dark warrior god appeared suddenly on this ice field. Dark armor covered the whole body. In an instant, it blocked the sky and blocked all sunlight. They are two extremely sharp dark blades. It possesses the power to create the world, shining brightly in the midair. Complete body Susanoo, the legendary ultimate eye technique. Also on the desert land of Hawako Mundo, the sun knife instantly killed Ulquiorra, who was returning to the sword in the second stage. Now, as Bai Chen releases his pupil power, this invincible dark warrior god suddenly descended on the ice and snow plain. In this space belonging to the Invisible Empire. Showing invincible surging power. What power is this? Obviously he didn't pull out Zanpakutō. There was neither Shikai nor Bankai. But why, for no reason, can such a monster be summoned out of thin air? He looked up in shock, looking at the complete body of Susanoo standing upright. At this moment, Chaluji was completely frightened, and even his voice became trembling when he spoke. Such an exaggerated scene. It has completely subverted Karuji's outlook on life. This made the hunting captain of the Invisible Empire feel suspicious of life. What made Kaluji feel even more desperate was, just by looking at him, he lost all courage in an instant. And so it was with Chiruja. Not to mention other pure-blooded Quincy. Almost everyone was either so frightened that their legs became weak, or their bodies curled up into a ball, or they were unable to withstand the pressure of the momentum. As a result, his eyes went dark. Completely fainted. All in all, a shocking debut of the complete Susanoo. Brought to the pure-blooded Quincy. Despair deep into the soul. And at this time, on the opposite side, Nailu and the other three were in a completely opposite state. Wow, this is too exaggerated. So this is the reason why Ulquiorra was wiped out. If the two swords it holds in its hands are slashed at random, this vast ice field will be violently cut open in an instant, right? Peishui was amazed. Dun Chaka sighed, and Nailu's beautiful eyes were full of brilliance. Looking at the perfect Susanoo standing tall and exuding an invincible aura. Nailu, three people, it feels like you are meeting the gods. At this moment, their feelings were exactly the same as those of the pure-blooded Quincy. Just a brief glance. I immediately felt the pressure doubled, and even my breathing was affected. It's because Nailu and the other three are Bai Chen's companions. And Bai Chen has no reason to exert pressure on them. Otherwise, just this short gap, the great oppression brought by the complete body Susanoo. At least the Arankar bodies of Peishui and Donchaka will be completely crushed. At the same time, amidst everyone's exclamations, Bai Chen raised his head, his figure flashed, and with a burst of momentum, he flew straight to the top of the sky. In full view, like a master, he stood on top of the perfect Susanoo, looking down at the ice source with a calm expression. It's a brand new feeling again. Compared to when I was in Hawako Mundo, driving a Gundam on the territory of the Invisible Empire is obviously more fulfilling. The corners of Bai Chen's mouth turned up. While feeling high-spirited, the corner of his mouth curled up with a hint of satisfaction. Don't say anything else. Just at this height, he could already clearly see the specific landforms of the entire ice wasteland. Even Yinjia City in the distance. Also because of Eternal Mangekyo's super long sight range. And at the end of Bai Chen's field of vision, it was looming, like a tiny black dot. It can be seen from this. Complete body Susanoo. Its shape and scale are not simply too huge, but are truly towering. Even this mysterious shadow space was built by pure-blooded Quincy for thousands of years. It can barely accommodate Bai Chen's presence. And at this time, after a short period of satisfaction, Bai Chen quickly put away his thoughts and looked down condescendingly, his eyes locked on Kaluji's figure in the crowd. Bai Chen said in a sarcastic tone. You should understand now, right? You and your hunting team are worthless in my eyes. The gap between us is as you can see before your eyes. It's not on the same page at all. Bai Chen crossed his arms in front of him. The indifferent words were full of disdain, as if they were telling the truth. And he looked at Kuruji. It's like looking at a dead person. Yes, after the previous 2 attacks and defenses, Bai Chen decided not to procrastinate anymore and not to waste time anymore. It's like when he drafted Wang Dejiao Hueco Mundo. With the complete body of Susanoo, she has unparalleled power. Wield the extremely sharp dark katana. Cut it down with one knife. Shocking. Killing Chaluj and his men in one blow. In other words, the entire Invisible Empire hunting team was wiped out instantly in one go. Then, Bai Chen quickly took action. And as he raised his palm, Susanoo's movements were completely synchronized. Huge katana. With the dark arm, it was raised high. Boom. Cut it off with one knife. When the world is destroyed. A slash that contains world-destroying power. Just like that, under the desperate gaze of Kuruji. It quickly enlarged in his eyes. In the end, it was swiftly cut down to destroy the world. It's not hard to imagine. Complete Susanoo's knife. Final results. No doubt, it will still be an instant kill with one knife. Chapter 192. Desperate Gap, the battle is over. Advertise here. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. It's just a Shinigami captain. How can he have the power to rival His Majesty? This must be a lie. At this time, when watching helplessly, when the huge black blade slashed down from the sky, it exuded the kind of oppression that could crush the soul. Kuruji's expression turned desperate. His eyes were red and bloodshot, and he was roaring hysterically. In this world, anyone, any strong person, once you are about to face death, your mentality will explode without exception, and you may even become crazy. Now, this is the state of Kuruji. When the feeling of death gradually intensified. 893 Chaluji is unwilling to give in. His eyes turned vicious. Looking at the complete body of Susanoo within his field of vision, which could hardly be accommodated, he roared like a madman. Captain Shinigami, your majesty gave me status in the position of hunting captain. Hasward even ordered me to kill all intruders. So, no matter what, I will never be beaten by you. Just go to hell. While screaming sharply, the holy writing ability is activated. For a moment, Kuruji pulled out the Lingxi sword. After the power of the holy words took effect, the light at the tip of the sword shone brightly, and bursts of solid light burst out. Subsequently, flowing into the midair, the shape CCAF has become an extremely strong prison cage. Like a barrier, it is blocked in midair, trying to block the slashing of the dark blade. Get out of jail. This is Chaluji's last resort. It can even be said to be a desperate struggle under a huge power gap. Later, if the prison cage cannot withstand it, then, it means that Chiruki and his men will definitely die. Even escaping is impossible, will be wiped out with one blow. And for all this to happen, Bai Chen stands on top of the perfect Susanoo. He lowered his eyes and looked on coldly, his words full of ridicule. Kaluji, it seems you still don't quite understand. In the face of the absolute Reiatsu gap, any means or tricks are useless struggles that overestimate one's capabilities. Bai Chen's cold words, it was as if an ultimatum had been issued. Completely pronounced the order of Kuruji and the entire hunting team. The moment Bai Chen finished speaking, a scene happened that made Ji Liji look dull and feel extremely desperate. Boom. Among all pure-blooded Quincy, watching with frightened and desperate eyes. The huge black blade suddenly fell from the sky. Embodying the most powerful power to destroy everything, it struck heavily on the prison cage. Then, but no explosion occurred, because the Reiatsu gap is too large. For the dark spirit sword, Kuruj tried his best to release this prison cage. More like paper-like fragility. Touch, cut, and crush with one knife. Almost in the blink of an eye, in Kuruji's desperate eyes. The power of the sacred text that he was proud of in the past. Just like that, I was beaten up before my eyes. Hateful. Damn it, damn it, damn it, Chaluj growled angrily. Completely lost my mind, but, in front of the dark martial god, he was like an ant. Except for the incompetent rage. Powerless at all revolving heaven. Finally, in less than a few seconds, with the huge dark blade, it fell on the ice field. Boom. After the deafening loud noise, this vast ice field was directly divided into two, cut in half. And Kilihei and his men. Hundreds of pure-blooded Quincy figures. Also in the huge explosion of fire caused by the pressure of the sword, it was completely destroyed and disappeared without a trace. Kill it with one knife. Crush everything. This is Bai Chen's peak eye power. And whether it's in Hueco Mundo, or on the territory of the Invisible Empire. Complete body Susanoo. They all possess invincible power that sweeps through everything. Chapter 193. A more terrifying enemy. Advertise here. Died. All pure-blooded Quincy have been wiped out. Master Bai Chen, you are too strong. Watching the blade fall due to darkness. And the ice sheet was cut in half, divided into two, and reduced to ruins. Pei Shui and Dongashaka were stunned. His eyes were full of shock, and he was extremely shocked by the scene before him. That's a pure Quincy. There are hundreds of people. In less than half an hour. Under the siege of the group, they were crushed and obliterated by Bai Chen, and everyone's souls were wiped out in an instant. And from beginning to end. In addition to blasting out that dark Sero destruction, Bai Chen. He just relied on his pupil power to summon the complete body of Susanoo, but he didn't really do it once. That's all. Standing above the clouds, he was condescending and like a master, killing the entire hunting team in an instant. Such terrifying combat power. One look can suppress the entire audience. The most important thing is that this battle took place on the territory of the Invisible Empire. Obviously an intruder, but in turn, he crushed the enemy and defeated the pure Quincy. Everything Bai Chen does, in the eyes of Nailu, Pei Shui and Dong Chaka. What a miracle, and to help them as Arankar, indirectly let out a bad breath. Pei Shui, Dong de Chaka, am I right? Master Bai Chen has the power to crush everything. He is the patron saint who protects us. Nailu raised her head and looked at the sky. The beautiful eyes reflected the majestic figure of Bai Chen standing on the head of the perfect Susanoo with his hands on his shoulders. At this time, Nailu's eyes were extremely fanatical. There is both admiration and admiration, just like a star-chasing fangirl. And through this battle, Nailu's admiration for Bai Chen has naturally doubled again. In her eyes, Bai Chen is a man who can do anything and can be relied upon. At the same time, after wiping out the enemy, after confirming that there was no residual breath in the ruins, Bai Chen immediately withdrew his eye power and released the complete Susanoo. Shunpo, please give me flowers. Less than a moment. Bai Chen's figure flashed in front of Nailu and others from above the clouds. Didn't it scare you? Bai Chen showed a faint smile. When looking at Nailu and the others, their eyes were no longer as cold as they were when treating enemies, but became easygoing and full of care. It's okay. Master Bai Chen, you are too powerful. 0. The two subordinate officers exclaimed excitedly. Yes, if you hadn't been by my side to protect you, Mr. Bai Chen, the three of us alone would have been targeted by the Invisible Empire. In the end, you will be surrounded and hunted by them like prey, and there will be no room for you to fight back. Nailu said from the bottom of her heart. You're welcome. Bai Chen smiled. Then he turned his head and looked into the distance, his expression gradually becoming serious. He warned in a deliberate deep voice. Thunder N. Road. You three, be careful. Just now, there was such a big commotion, which must have alarmed the entire Invisible Empire. Next, we will face an enemy more terrifying than the hunting team. Bai Chen solemnly warned the Taoist. Chapter 194. The knights are panicking. Advertise here. At the same time, just when Bai Chen was ready to face the battle. On the other side of Yinjia City, just as Bai Chen said, they sensed the destruction of the hunting team at the same time. As well as complete body Susanoo, that powerful momentum that destroys heaven and earth. Suddenly, widespread panic arose throughout Yinjia City. At this time, Yinjia City, inside the Ice Crystal Palace. There was silence in the huge palace, Yi Ling. There was a dull atmosphere hanging over the place. Although the time from when the alarm sounded to when Kuluji was notified to go to the ice plains to conduct a sweep was not too long. But, just now, when the breath of destruction comes. Headed by Hasward, all members of the Star Cross Knights gradually realized that something was really wrong with the group. What they thought was an intruder. It was just an accidental collision, so he rashly broke into the shadow space. Unexpectedly, the reality is completely different. Not only are the invaders not weak, they are even incredibly powerful. Regardless of the terrifying momentum just transmitted from the ice field. Or was it the fact that Kuruji and his hunting team were wiped out instantly in such a short period of time? It all showed. Bai Chen, the intruder. There is no doubt that it possesses and threatens the Invisible Empire. It is even a powerful force that threatens the entire purebred Quincy clan. And currently, what worries the Knights of the Star Cross even more? Because all of them have not gone to the plane of water yet. Therefore, I can only sense breath. It is not clear the identity of the intruder is hostile. That is to say, at present, Bai Chen is in the dark. The Invisible Empire is in the light. The purebred Quincy clan, on the contrary, are even more passive and have a sense of crisis. Well, everyone, I'm sorry to tell you that Kuruji's aura has completely disappeared. The highest point of the palace. Hasward frowned, and there was no longer any emotion in his cold voice. Instead, there was a hint of panic. Obviously, stronger than Hasward. As Yuhabach's personal bodyguard, and he is one of the 10 most powerful warriors in the entire Shinigami world. Regarding the accidental death of Kuluji, even Hasward felt very surprised. He had never expected in advance that it would be such a tragic result. Kuruj is a member of the Knights of the Star Cross. And with his strength, even if he is not the top among the entire Knights. But he is still beyond the ordinary Shinigami captain. The most important thing is Chiluji's ability to write holy words. Can release a prison like a cage. Its strength is indestructible. Only those with pure Quincy bloodline. Only then can we break free from the cage and avoid being permanently imprisoned. But now, 2.5. Now that Kuruji has been killed. That means that the power of the invaders has become so powerful that they can ignore the holy text. What a terrible message. The holy word is the power that all members of the Knights are most proud of. What if even this force was crushed? To be honest, even Hashward himself suddenly felt not very sure. Able to deal with intruders. Chapter 195 Invisible Empire Support. Kangdu, Caddis, Ajutran, Kisbat. Hashward lowered his eyes. Cold eyes glanced below, looking at 5 figures among the star-crossed knights. He said in a deep commanding tone. So far. The strength of the invaders far exceeds our expectations. So the 4 of you join forces to attack. We must eliminate all enemies. Although relative to the knights as a whole, the number of 4 people is actually not that many, 22. But, these 4 people were named by Hashward. Everyone's strength is higher than that of ordinary captains. Plus hundreds of Imperial guards. The strength of the Crusade team formed cannot be underestimated. It is much more powerful than the hunting team. Hashward thought, this is a prudent enough decision. As for the possibility of failure, he didn't even think about it. If even this lineup was defeated by the invaders, that means, the Invisible Empire and the purebred Quincy clan are in danger. They are about to repeat the mistakes of thousands of years ago and face the crisis of annihilation. And if it really comes to a desperate moment, then, the only way to deal with it is to wake up Yuhabach in advance. This is the only way out. Also the worst choice. Hashward doesn't want to do this until it's absolutely necessary. And at this time, among the crowd below, after being called by Hashward's name, Kangdu and the other 4 nodded in agreement and responded confidently. Hashward, don't worry, Kuruji's death was just an accident. It was probably just his personal negligence. And with the 4 of us working together, there is absolutely no possibility of overturning. Although every member of the Knights does not necessarily have a good relationship in private. There are often disputes or even duels due to various issues. But, the enemy is at hand. When we face a powerful unknown enemy together, everyone knows very well that as long as they put aside their gaps and speak out in unison, this crisis can be resolved quickly. At the same time, the outskirts of the ice plains. Bai Chen, Nailu, Pei Shui, and Dong Chaka stayed put. He did not leave this ruins. Instead, he waited in place, waiting for the reinforcements from the purebred Quincy to arrive. Master Bai Chen, do we really not need to lay traps or something in advance? What if the entire Invisible Empire comes out? Can we really fight against the entire purebred Quincy clan? Because the surroundings are completely white. Being in this icy and snowy environment, it is easy to feel lonely, guilty, and lacking confidence. So, even though Bai Chen had just wiped out the entire 947 hunting team, with his own power, he shocked the entire Invisible Empire. In the process of waiting, the 2 subordinate officers, Pei Shui and Dong Chaka, were inevitably worried. Even if it weren't for Nailu not expressing her position. They also planned to persuade Bai Chen to return to the original route now, return to the Black Cavity Passage, and then leave the shadow space. To avoid troublesome times, something unexpected happens next, leading to any possible tragic outcome. However, faced with the persuasion of 2 people, Bai Chen responded calmly. No, setting up a trap is completely meaningless. If the Invisible Empire really mobilizes all its members, then wipe them out at once. Chapter 196 Brand New Holy Text. Soon after, not far from where Bai Chen and the others are. Another area of the ice wasteland. An extremely arrogant voice broke the silence around him. Oh, Luji is really a victim. He was killed by an intruder for no reason. In a low tone, there is both disdain and ridicule, as well as a hint of sympathy and pity for his companions. At this time, among the support troops sent by the Invisible Empire, Kangdu, who has short black hair and slender eyes, and a white Quincy uniform, walks through the cold air. As a member of the Knights of the Star Cross, like Chiruja, he was endowed with the power of the sacred writings by Yuhabach. Holy text. The symbolic ability is steel. Yes, once the ability is used, any part of Kangdu's body can turn into steel in an instant, which can resist any cuts and punctures. Defense will be fully charged instantly. Therefore, within the Knights of the Star Cross, with strong defense power, Kangdu has an arrogant character and thinks highly of himself. And this time, after being ordered to attack, even if Chiluji and the hunting team are wiped out. But this will not affect Kangdu's mentality. Instead of being afraid of the invaders, he has a revengeful mentality. I hope to avenge the dead Kuruji. Of course, Kangdu is not alone. Just as Kangdu finished sighing, another voice sounded. Kangdu, I think no matter what, we all must remain vigilant and must not show any slightest contempt anymore. Being able to wipe out Kuruji and the hunting team in a short period of time is enough to prove the powerful strength of the invaders. Another member of the order who was traveling with him, Ajutran, who wore glasses, gray hair, and was wrapped in a white coat, reminded in a deep voice with his eyes narrowed. His holy text code name is N. The specific symbolic ability is teleportation faster than Fei Lian's feet. This ability, if used properly, far more powerful than Kangdu's steel. The upper limit is also higher. Plus Ajutran itself. Regardless of age or seniority, he is one of the first purebred Quincy to join the entire Invisible Empire. Therefore, for his words, the young and energetic Kangdu did not refute. Instead, he became silent and looked into the distance with a solemn expression. Acquiesced to Ajutran's opinion, and this time, wearing a short-sleeved shirt with a lightning bolt logo on his body. Goddess has an amazing amount of breasts, a hot body, and a powerful aura. Swinging her long-sleeved grass-green hair, he snapped his fingers and said, "Yeah. To be honest, when Hasward gave the order just now, I couldn't help but suggest that I want him to lead everyone in pursuit in person. Otherwise, once it's a while, it will really overturn unexpectedly. Then the four of us will suffer the same fate as Kaluji." Jadis frowned. Her holy writing ability is T, which stands for lightning. Yes, harness the thunder and condense the lightning. This is the power of this female pure Quincy. And Jadis's combat power, at least in terms of attack power, is far more powerful than Kangdu and Ajutran. But even Jadis thinks so. This reinforcement and pursuit mission is full of danger. It can be seen from this. Bai Chen hiding in the dark. What a heavy and huge pressure it has brought to the entire Invisible Empire and all members of the Star-Crossed Knights. 13. You guys, it's better to stop. We will soon arrive at the place where Kaluji died. Everyone is gearing up and getting ready for a big fight. The fourth member of the Knights, Jerome Zhao. The codename of the holy text is R. The specific ability is to transform the body into a beast, and can transform into a savage and violent giant gorilla. Roared. Take advantage of the roaring sound of the spoon. Knock the enemy away and kill them at the same time. Generally speaking, among the purebred Quincy who were chasing after him, Jerome's power star was the most powerful. And his mentality, also very different from others. I think killing the intruder is a sure thing. It is an inevitable thing. And, a few more minutes. This batch of reinforcements will soon arrive in the Ice Wasteland. Chapter 197 Head-to-Head Confrontation. Advertise here. Quickly. Following the purebred Quincy, advance at full speed. This crusade force, which was sent out again because of the death of Karuji, finally reached the border of the Ice Plains. Testy. Bai Chen's location. The two sides finally met. What? You read that right. One Shinigami captain, 3 Arankars, what kind of lineup is this? Were Kaluji and his hunting team killed by something like this? It's simply unbelievable. After landing, Lightning Girl, Jadis looked across. Surprised eyes were on Bai Chen, Nailu and others. I asked back and forth several times. It wasn't until he confirmed that he had seen it correctly that he couldn't help but exclaim. On the way here, Tejas imagined more than once the specific identity of the intruder and was ready for a fight at any time. J.817. When Bai Chen's identity was discovered, there was actually a Shinigami captain with 3 Arankar subordinates. Jadis's reaction was the same as Chaluji's before. At the same time, I feel doubtful about life, and even doubt that my perception is wrong. I didn't expect that. Shinigami and Manos Grande. These two opposing species. One day they would team up with each other and invade the purebred Quincy's territory. Such a plot, if not personally experienced, Jadis thought that she could not imagine it at all with her imagination. Dex. It turned out to be a Shinigami captain. No wonder Karuj was killed. Unlike Jadis, although Kangdu was also surprised. However, after the brief surprise, he immediately put away his thoughts. There was a strong demand for hostility in his eyes. Immediately afterwards, before everyone can discuss countermeasures together, Kangdu then activated the ability of Spirit Sub-Gathering. After condensing the holy bow of Spirit Sun, he aimed at Bai Chen's position and fired a blast of divine destruction with precision. Brush. The sharp arrows pierced the yellow air. After the air was pierced, it carried powerful destructive power, and it was about to hit. However, snap. This time, Bai Chen no longer relies on pupil power. Instead, he reached out and touched his back, holding the huge flaming red fan. Swing forward slightly. Fanned up a flame slash. In an instant, the cold air was dissipated and the temperature skyrocketed. Flame-shaped slash. It emits a fiery red light, burning hot. In just less than a moment, a large area of ice and snow was incinerated, causing the temperature to rise suddenly. And how Huo Yan fan once again shines. CCFG also instantly caused exclamations, shocking the Quincy's of the Star-Crossed Knights. What a terrible slash. What kind of Zanpakutō is that huge flame fan? Why does it have such power? Kangdu's pupils suddenly shrank. Even his holy writing ability can turn his whole body into steel. But, faced with Bai Chen's flaming slash, at this moment, Kangdu felt as if he was facing the sun. Yes, the dangerous aura emitted by the flame slash. Ling Kangdu lost all his confidence, and his attitude changed dramatically. Now, the pure-blooded Quincy present. Even in terms of numbers, they have a huge advantage. J.A. The moment when Bai Chen holds Zanpakutō. The numerical advantage was gone, and instead she became Lulu. Because Kangdu had no doubt at all. Once the flame bursts, the hot breath will burst out. It will inevitably spread quickly on this ice sheet. And then, even if pure-blooded Quincy evade immediately, there is a high probability that they will not be able to escape the scope of the pyroblast. I see. No wonder Kaluji and his hunting team overturned. I finally understand why they were wiped out in an instant. Cross your arms in front of you. Ajutran snorted angrily, with a look of fear on his wrinkled face. At this moment, he had to admit that the strength of the invaders far exceeded expectations. Facing the extremely powerful Bai Chen, if we fail to support the troops, they will repeat the same mistakes and be wiped out again. Chapter 198 Confident Kangdu. Advertise here. BV. The intruders are more powerful and troublesome than imagined. We must not take them lightly. Lightning Lady Goddess. Lu Mei frowned slightly and reminded. Although Bai Chen slashed with flames. In midair, after colliding with holy destruction, it exploded violently. In the end, it did not spread towards the location where the purebred Quincy were. But, a lingering fire on the snow, and the hot smell spreading in the air. Without exception, it is shown that Bai Chen is no ordinary Shinigami captain. Subverting the three views of pure Quincy's. Strange. I never remember that among the captains of Gote 13, there is such a person. If my hunch is correct, this guy's strength is even comparable to Yamamoto Genryusai. Ajutran rubbed his chin. His eyes were staring at Bai Chen's figure through the air. Constantly vigilant and probing back and forth. Actually. Past millennia, a purebred Quincy clan, although it has always been hidden in the dark. But in fact, in order not to be discovered, and accidentally exposed. The Invisible Empire does not monitor the Seraiti all the time. In general, every 3 years, there will be a spy. Use this to get the latest information about Gote 13. And 3 years. At first glance, it seems very long. But in fact, for Shinigami, it is actually very short-lived. So, this is why, obviously Bai Chen was there not long ago. He killed Tusen Kanami and replaced him as the new captain of Division 9. These officers of the Knights of the Star Cross. The reason why I still didn't recognize Bai Chen's identity at the first time. Call, Goddess, Jerome, Ajutran. You also know that my holy text ability can only be used to its maximum effect in close combat. The white cloak on his body. In the biting cold wind, there was a sound of hunting. Kangdu walked out of the crowd, looked at the other side with fighting intent in his eyes, and said confidently. If we can kill a Shinigami captain before His Majesty wakes up, then this matter will greatly boost morale. Our invisible empire will also sound the clarion call for counterattack in advance. The words fell. Before the other 3 people agreed. Kangdu's figure disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Bai Chen and the others on the empty snow. As just said, even though Bai Chen has already held the fire to extinguish the fan. And the flame slash that was just slashed was terrifyingly powerful. However, with the power of the holy word, steel. Kangdu is confident that once his whole body turns into steel, no matter how powerful Bai Chen's slash is, it will never be able to break through the defense. Therefore, only Kangdu can confidently close the distance. He didn't even think that such behavior was sending him to death. At the same time, when I saw Kangdu's figure, appeared 100 meters away. The corners of Bai Chen's mouth turned up, outlining a playful arc, and he said teasingly. It's clear that the number of people has an absolute advantage. And there are 3 other pure-blooded Quincy around to help. Please give me flowers. But you still choose to challenge me in a duel. What a commendable courage, if not for a hostile relationship. Bai Chen almost couldn't help it and gave Kangdu a like in person. And through Kangdu's actions, Bai Chen also realized it again, after thousands of years of dormancy, and the continuous accumulation of strength in secret. Invisible Empire. A purebred Quincy clan. At present, it has grown to the point where Shinigami is not taken seriously at all. Not even an exaggeration. In their eyes, even Captain Shinigami is vulnerable. No different from ordinary prey. It can be easily killed at any time. After realizing this, Bai Chen, who originally had no deep hostility towards pure-blooded Quincy, completely changed his attitude. Since the Quincy of the Knights are growing bigger than the last. So, kill them all. This is the best punishment for them. Then, facing Kangdu's hostile gaze, Bai Chen held a round fan in his hand and asked knowingly. An unknown pure-blooded Quincy. Your companion, the guy named Kaluji. His ability to write holy words can create prisons. What about you? What are your abilities? Bai Chen asked deliberately. Although as a time traveler, he knows the entire Invisible Empire and the purebred Quincy clan very well. But the purpose of asking this deliberately, just to add fuel to the fire and make Kangdu expand even more. And a blindly confident enemy. It will also be easier to expose flaws. 6. Chapter 199 Steel. Kill instantly with one knife. Advertise here. Pure Quincy. As a member of the Knights of the Star Cross, you should be proud to speak of your ability to write holy words, just like Shiroji, right? In front of Kangdu, Bai Chen asked in a deliberately provocative tone. And his words undoubtedly added fuel to the fire and immediately angered the other party. "Da, are you deliberately trying to provoke the general? This method is really despicable." Kangdu sneered. Although under normal circumstances, it is a taboo to expose one's power in advance during a battle. But, confident and inflated Kangdu, 160. There were 3 other companions behind him, as well as a large number of imperial guards. He does not think. There is no need to hide anything about the power of my holy words. So, there was barely any hesitation. Kangdu smiled arrogantly and told his abilities in an exaggerated manner. "Captain Shinigami, listen up. The power your majesty gave me is steel. That is to say, you Shinigami, the best fighting method, any slashing and slashing, can't cause harm to me." Kangdu's deep words contained absolute disdain. Finished. In front of Bai Chen. He immediately activated his ability. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, Kangdu's body. Those parts that are not covered by clothing, arms, wrists, neck, etc., became pitch black in an instant. Turned into extremely hard steel. It seems to have the power of absolute defense. 2. Watching this happen, Bai Chen's expression remained unchanged, and there was no change in Junlang's face. He still had the expression of a master without joy or sorrow. Bai Chen said calmly, "You just turned into steel. Did it make you grow to this point?" It seems that the pure-blooded Quincy clan is really petty in terms of their vision and mentality. Bai Chen shook his head, completely lost interest in Kangdu. Actually, no matter in terms of strength, or their status within their respective groups. Bai Chen and Kangdu have never been of the same latitude. And the reason why Bai Chen is patient. Let's chat with Kangdu for a while. Purebreds are the mysterious purebred Quincy clan who want to know more. But now, since Kangdu's character, just like Chiluji, he is blindly arrogant and arrogant. So treat this type of people. The best way is to be ruthless and kill them completely. Ever since. Boom. Bai Chen raised his hand. Raise the fire and extinguish the fan. On the blade, crimson flames burned fiercely. Change the surrounding temperature, while quickly breaking through the ignition point. On this ice and snow plain, a large number of snowflakes melted simultaneously, and the ice on the ground even began to tear apart. Flame. This is a fire-type Zanpakutō. When you feel the heat coming towards you. Kangdu's pupils suddenly shrank, and hot sweat instantly flowed down his cheeks. And the white Quincy uniform on his body. Under the light of the fire, it also exudes a red luster, as if it is hinting that a bloody disaster is about to happen. And in fact this is indeed the case. Just as Kang was thinking about how to prevent it next. Snap. Bai Chen was not seen making any moves. His figure holding the knife in one hand disappeared in an instant. And the huge flame fan. With a flame that incinerates everything. As if traveling through space, the man and the sword appeared in front of Kangdu in an instant. So fast, it actually completely avoided my Reiatsu induction. The blink of an eye. When he saw the flaming blade, it had been magnified infinitely within his sight range. Kangdu's eyes widened in horror. Deep down, my self-confidence has completely collapsed. Over the past few hundred years, a strong sense of uneasiness that he had never experienced before suddenly arose from the bottom of his heart. Spiritual sons. Gather. Under fear. Kangdu's instinctive activation ability. In an instant, a spirit sword was condensed in his hand. 1.8. And he made a blocking action immediately. However, it's too late. Before he could wait, Lingxi's sword lay across his body. Hao Huo Ming fans swept across Kangdu's waist. Boom. The flames burn. The fire exploded. The fire soared into the sky, like a waterfall, rolling up in reverse. It takes less than a few seconds. A few minutes ago, Hong Kong was arrogant and confident. It was reduced to ashes in the burning flames. Completely obliterated. Chapter 200 Reverse Encirclement. Advertise here. What? How can this be? My steel body. Actually. When the whole body becomes steel. A body with a dark complexion. The moment the fan winger wrapped in flames penetrated his body. Kangdu's expression. The original arrogant expression on his face instantly froze. His eyes widened in shock, filled with disbelief and panic. Totally in disbelief. Proud of the power of holy words. But when faced with Bai Chen and his Hao Huo Ming fan, he seemed so vulnerable that he was killed instantly with a knife. Bai Chen's knife. A terrifying slash entwined with flames. The vitality in Kangdu's body, which was continuously cut off 22 times, defeated his overconfidence in the power of the holy words. And at this time, not just Kangdu himself, not far behind, 3 other Star Cross Knights cadres were watching the battle. Everyone was stunned. Everyone was shocked by this scene. No, Kangdu was actually killed instantly with a single knife. He can turn into steel, and with the blessing of spiritual power and static blood equipment, his defense is stronger than almost everyone else even if we look at the entire Star Cross Knights. How could it be possible to be killed easily with one knife? Among the 4 officers of the Knights of the Star Cross, Ajutlong, who was the oldest, felt extremely shocked at this moment. Even if you see it with your own eyes. The facts are happening before our eyes. But he still couldn't believe that Kangdu, whose strength was almost the same, was as fragile as a piece of white paper in front of Bai Chen. What frightened Ajutran even more Even Aang is like this. Then the other three of them have very weak defenses. In the ensuing battle, wouldn't it be even more dangerous once faced with a huge fire? I see. I finally understand why Kaluji and his Imperial hunting team were killed, every one of them. Akutran sighed. Lightning Girl, Jadis, after witnessing the tragic situation in Kangdu, her face instantly turned pale. Look at Bai Chen. And when the huge flame ball in his hand fanned, his eyes were full of fear, and his self-confidence was shaken instantly. Although currently, even Kangdu was killed instantly with one knife. But in front of this ice plane, there are 3 cadres of the Star-Crossed Knights and hundreds of Imperial Guards. At least in terms of numbers. The purebred Quincy still has the absolute advantage. And this ruined plane was completely blocked from all directions. First, we killed Kuruji. Now, in front of everyone, he killed the steely Kangdu with one strike. After Bai Chen invaded the shadow space, the results in these 2 battles are really too strong and invincible. This is what leads to, in Jadis's view, all strength in numbers. It's totally useless. Instead, because there is an obvious gap in strength. Therefore, the current real situation seems to be that Bai Chen and others are under siege. But actually, instead, Bai Chen relied on his own efforts. It's only right to surround all the pure-blooded Quincy. This is called reverse surround. Chapter 201 Teleport to counterattack. Advertise here. Then, in an atmosphere of fear, Kangdu's body was quickly burned to ashes as the flames spread. That's all. In the eyes of the remaining 3 Star-Crossed Knights cadres, he was wiped out cleanly by Bai Chen. But, despite Kangdu's death, it brought an unparalleled shock. But, the remaining people are not stupid enough to sit still and wait for death. The oldest Ajutran, after a brief period of shock, he quickly adjusted his mentality and activated the power of the holy words in an instant. Network jump, the pace of God. As the white-haired old man shouted. His old body wearing a white Quincy uniform. The abrupt spot disappeared. Then, as if he transformed into a ghost crossing the snow, he suddenly traveled through space and flashed to Bai Chen's side. Click. By the strong spirit child. The condensed spirit pistol was aimed directly at Bai Chen's back. The next second, as long as Ajutran pulls the trigger, the spirit projectiles will burst out, hitting with incomparable accuracy. And kill the enemy with one blow. Past. In the battles experienced, Ajutran used this move to kill countless opponents. Therefore, even though they know that there is a huge disparity in power, and it is extremely dangerous to approach Bai Chen rashly, but Ajutran is still confident. His bullets and shuttle speed can kill Bai Chen unexpectedly. Ajutran's sudden attack, especially his teleportation-like ability. For a moment, Bai Chen was truly amazed. It's interesting. Bai Chen turned sideways. He glanced sideways behind him. Ajo's special figure was reflected in his black eyes, and he rarely took the initiative to praise. It seems that the so-called power of holy words is not useless. At least your ability can finally pose a slight threat to me. And after hearing these words, despite gaining recognition from the enemy, but instead of feeling happy, Ajutran felt that this was truly humiliating himself. Ever since, he snorted angrily. After raising your arm, pull the trigger hard. The next moment, bang, fires radiated, spirits surge. An infinitely powerful spirit bomb suddenly burst out from the muzzle of the gun. Because the distance between the 2 sides is very short. In less than 3 seconds, he was about to die. However, next, weird things happen. Teleport. Actually, this kind of ability may be very special among your purebred Quincy clan. But in my eyes, it's useless. Clearly speaking voice. Still staying in place, Wang Mo Jiao. But Bai Chen's figure flashed simultaneously and appeared behind Ajutran. Not only that, Bai Chen's hands, that huge flame fan, while glowing and generating heat, it was placed sharply on Ajutran's back. That is to say, next, all Bai Chen needs to do is swing his sword. The winger who fanned the flames will replicate the scene that happened before, split Ajutran's body in 2. Easily counterattack and sue the other party. Chapter 202 A New Twist. Hateful. What an amazing speed. It's actually more powerful than my God step. When felt from the back. After a steady stream of heat. Ajutran's old face full of wrinkles. An expression of horror and despair suddenly appeared. Just now, the moment Bai Chen disappeared on the spot. He even just blinked and didn't react at all. If I hadn't heard Bai Chen's voice. And the heat of fire came from behind. Otherwise, Ajutran's Reiatsu perception would not be detectable at all. Bai Chen was silent. It has already achieved instant counterattack. However, facing Ajutran's panic and exclamation, Bai Chen had no expression on his face, holding a fire-extinguishing fan in his hand, and said coldly. What a pity, Purebred Annihilation Division 820. If your power of holy words is used against other Shinigami captains, it will definitely cause great trouble to them. It's a pity that my opponent now is me. In plain words. It contains regret and absolute confidence. Even though they are in a hostile relationship, they are about to kill each other. But Bai Chen also told the truth. He did not deliberately belittle Ajutran's strength. And in fact, if it weren't for Bai Chen's own strength, I have long stood at the Shinigami peak, and am on par with those who surpassed me. Otherwise, for the power of the holy word, steps of God, CCEJ. Bai Chen really covets it and is eager to obtain this ability. But, everything is superfluous now. The praise for a Jutran is just a thought. However, just as Bai Chen raised his hand, hold the giant flame fan. Prepare to repeat the same trick and use the winger of Tuanfan to kill a Jutran. Suddenly, boom, above this ice sheet, heavy dark clouds gathered. When the scale reaches the level of a cloud, another pure Quincy, Tigas, whose holy text power is lightning. Finally, I no longer sit idly by. Instead, he activated his ability on the side and blasted out a huge, terrifying thunder beam that exuded a dangerous aura. Captain Shinigami, do you really think that the cadres of our noble knights of the Star Cross will be so stupid that you defeat them one by one? Jadis's proud voice, together with the roaring sound of lightning, it sounded on this ice field. And after hearing this action, Bai Chen paused for a moment, and the movement that he was about to raise his hand to swing the knife stopped abruptly. It's such a short gap. A Jutran reacted in time and activated his ability in an instant and with tacit understanding. Snap. Also in the blink of an eye, a Jutlong's figure seemed to have made a network jump and suddenly left the range of Bai Chen. Otherwise, you will face a fatal blow from the flame slash. At the same time, a Jutran disappeared just a second ago. The next second, a huge thunder beam suddenly fell from the sky. Ever since, the battle was originally one-sided. Because of this scene of counterattack, things have become unpredictable again. Bai Chen was about to harvest his life. Instead, he was hit by the thunder beam, and his whole body was plunged into the smoke and dust of the explosion. That's all. This battle of invaders. New suspense is created again. And the sudden reversal also caused Nailu and the three of them who were Bai Chen's companions. Once again I can't help but worry. Chapter 203 Lightning. Determined to win. Advertise here. Suffered. Master Bai Chen, should everything be okay? If something happens to him, the three of us will just rear. When watching helplessly, Bai Chen's figure holding a flaming fan was submerged in the bombardment of thunder beams. As a subordinate, Pei Shui's expression suddenly changed, and he was trembling with fear. And not just him. Next to him, Don Chaka had the same fat and round body. He was almost so scared that he huddled up in a ball. Only Nelu, still keeping calm. On the surface, there seems to be no concern. But if you look closely, you can clearly see a hint of uneasiness flashing through the depths of her eyes. Obviously, even if he has no doubt about Bai Chen's strength. And I have witnessed with my own eyes how Bai Chen easily destroyed the entire Empire hunting team by himself. Nailu still couldn't help but worry. I'm afraid that if Bai Chen is really injured, the situation will be reversed in an instant. And when the time comes, even if Nelu is the powerful Vasto Lord. But when faced with the siege of 3-star Cross Knights Quincy, Nelu did not have enough confidence to defeat them. And protect two subordinate officers and subordinates. And at this time, opposite the explosion ruins, not only Nelu and the other three were looking at each other nervously, but all the pure-blooded Quincy were doing the same. Even their mood, even more uneasy. And I kept praying, hoping to take the opportunity to kill Bai Chen, so as to avoid long nights and dreams. Tigas, thanks to your intervention, I was able to escape in time, otherwise I would have been killed just now. The figure of a Jutran. He reappeared in the crowd and looked at Jadis beside him to express his gratitude. And face him with thanks. Lightning girl. Tigas had no expression on her face and responded nonchalantly. A Jutran, I can understand your mood. It is indeed a very lucky thing to be able to save a small life before death. But, Lightning girl frowned. With eyes glowing with electricity, he stared at the explosion of fire and said in a determined tone. I don't think that Captain Shinigami will be killed easily. Asking for flowers. My thunder bombing will probably only be able to hurt him, but not kill him. Even though I was reluctant to say this. But Lightning girl had to admit that there was a power gap between her and Bai Chen. Yes, you know, the battle in the Shinigami world is essentially the confrontation between Reiatsu. And when there is a huge disparity in Reiatsu. 0. Even if you are the weak one, no matter how cool your abilities are, they can only scrape them at most. Therefore, even though the Lightning Woman has a proud personality, and her power of holy words is the one with the strongest attack power among the several Star Cross Knights cadres present. But Lightning Girl didn't have confidence either. Being able to defeat Bai Chen can only delay it a little at most. Just as she finished speaking, amid the smoke and dust from the explosion, Bai Chen's voice rang out. You are quite self-aware. The holy text, Lightning, I will accept this next ability. In Bai Chen's words, contains a sense of determination. This also means that he has taken a fancy to the power of lightning. Chapter 204 Another wave of group destruction. Pure Quincy, holding a flame fan. Bai Chen's eyes crossed the remaining flames everywhere and locked directly on Jadis. At the same time, Eternal Mangekyo, exuding powerful eye power. Even through the cold air, it still proves that the air is distorted. Even, directly dispelled the power of thunder. The ruins in front of him suddenly became calm because they could not bear the power of the eyes. 483. And Bai Chen was in an uninjured state. It also made the three people behind Nailu, Peishui, and Dongashaka heave a sigh of relief. There was no longer any fear or worry in his eyes. Instead, when he looked at the other side, he looked like he was looking at a dead person. Call, unharmed. After hearing what Bai Chen said, Jati's brows were almost knitted into a ball. He angrily rebuked. Captain Shinigami, stop being so blindly proud. I don't believe you will persist forever under our turn of siege. Lightning Girl couldn't accept it. They are officers of the Knights of the Star Cross. One after another, even if I use the power of the holy words, I am still scraping in front of the sun. This feeling of helplessness and powerlessness. There is no doubt that it has crushed confidence and brought unknown uneasiness. However, just as Jadis had just finished her harsh words. However, Bai Chen was no longer patient and kept playing with them. Tongli, copy. Just as Jadis gathered her strength. All over his body, golden lightning kept jumping. Eternal Mangekyo starts. The majestic pupil power penetrated the air in an instant and enveloped lightning in. She didn't react at all. And unable to resist the situation. In just a breath, he forcibly copied away the power of the holy text of lightning. That's all, almost effortless. Bai Chen relies on his extremely powerful eye power. It was very easy to obtain the ability of his mind. And the power of the holy text of thunder. But unlike before, the abilities of Shinigami and Manos Grande belong to the third race. Therefore, the moment copying is complete, Bai Chen's power level has been sublimated again. And like Kurosaki Ichigo, he possesses the power of Shinigami, Manos Grande, and a pure Quincy at the same time. It's over. Everyone who is a pure Quincy. I'm very grateful to you for dying one after another, staying with me for such a long time, and for taking the initiative to deliver the power of the holy text to my door. Facing the opposite side, hundreds of pure-blooded Quincy. Under everyone's anxious gaze, Bai Chen raised his fingers and lightly snapped them. Crack, sounded together with this voice. There are also the sounds of thunder roaring and lightning roaring. Yes, with powerful spiritual power beyond the peak of Shinigami. Bai Chen didn't see any movement, and endless thunder and lightning condensed in the sky above the ice field. Boom. 1.2 inches boom. Dash. Boom. After several roars in a row. In the desperate eyes of Jadis, Ajutran, Jerome and others. The thunder beam descends. Countless lightning arcs exploded. In this way, in just a few minutes, all the pure-blooded Quincy were killed. The second group wiped out the pure-blooded Quincy who attacked. Another wave of mass destruction. Chapter 205. Yuhabach awakens. Advertise here. It's over. All pure Quincies have been killed. Master Bai Chen, once again relied on his own power to replicate what happened in Hueco Mundo and swept across this shadow space. At this time, as the fighting subsides, as he watched helplessly, countless pure-blooded Quincy died and their figures completely disappeared. In the safe area behind, there are three people, Nailu, Peishui and Dong Chaka. Everyone's face showed an extremely shocked look. Especially just now, Bai Chen uses the power of copying, 22. And when a giant thunder beam was lowered, the three of them were completely stunned. I was deeply shocked by the scene in front of me. Nailu and the others have no doubt that if the battlefield shifts to Hueco Mundo, the thunder beam that Bai Chen lowered just now, it can definitely hit Zai Palace accurately from a long distance and burn everything to ashes. You shouldn't be scared, right? Put away the flame fan. Bai Chen turned around and looked behind him. There was no longer any chill in the face of the handsome man. Instead, it was restored to before. A gentle attitude that you can only have when dealing with your companions. And in the face of Bai Chen's concern, Nailu nodded and responded with a smile. Sir Bai Chen, we are fine. Thank you for your concern. Yes, Peishui and Dongashaka nodded quickly. Thanks to your protection, we were able to watch this shock at close range as a bystander so calmly. Battle. And with another wave of pure-blooded Quincy being wiped out. I'm afraid that now, there should be an atmosphere of fear within the Invisible Empire, and no one will be sent to pursue it anymore, right? In the opinion of two subordinate officers. Even if the Invisible Empire has been living in this shadow space for thousands of years. No matter in terms of power or numbers, it is definitely not inferior to Gotei 13, and even more powerful than the Arankar Legion. But, facing the invincible Bai Chen, all of the above has become meaningless. The number of people is also good. Whether it's an imperial power. Even the combat power of purebred Quincy. In front of Bai Chen, everyone can only be crushed. What makes the two subordinate officers even more fortunate is that, fortunately, Bai Chen is their master, and with Bai Chen's protection, in the following years. Nailu three people, there will be no need to worry. We'll live the same wandering life as before. Yes. You are right. Bai Chen nodded slightly. Then he withdrew his gaze, looked into the distance, and his eyes flashed. If the Invisible Empire is strong. If we continue to send more Imperial Guards, including cadres of the Knights of the Star Cross, to pursue a few of us. Then this behavior is not only stupid. It will also lead to the entire purebred Quincy clan being on the verge of destruction. 240. When the last words were spoken, Bai Chen's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Let alone an ordinary purebred Quincy. Even the purebred Quincy King, Yuhabach. Even if this person wakes up, Bai Chen also has absolute confidence that he can have a decisive battle with Yuhabach. However, what Bai Chen didn't expect was, just when he finished speaking, in the distant ice crystal palace, in the area where Yuhabach slept, it seemed that Bai Chen's voice was heard from the distance. Surprisingly, after many years, something special happened again. And this also means, the Quincy King, who has been sleeping for many years, seems to be about to wake up. Chapter 206 The storm ends. At this time, right at the end of the battle, and Bai Chen and his 3 subordinates, when preparing to make the next step, far away, Yinjia City. Inside the ice crystal palace, Yuhabach is still sleeping. This ancient Quincy King was affected by this battle. Actually, there are vague signs of awakening. Well, Kuruji, Jadis, Jerome, and Ajutran. Unknowingly, 4 pure-blooded Quincy cadres of the Knights of the Star Cross have indeed been killed. Unexpectedly, after so many years, Gotei 13's Shinigami has given birth to a Shinigami captain who is comparable to the one I left behind. In a dark space, in that ancient coffin that no one dares to approach, Yuhabach's shocked and low-sighing voice came out. Although he is still sleeping now. But in fact, Yuhabach's consciousness was already in a semi-awake state. And with strong perception ability. Even the sleeping position is still far away from the ice plane. But, Yuhabach still sensed it. The subordinates were killed one after another. And he was also shocked by the powerful strength of the intruder Bai Chen. Only, sighing and being shocked are one thing. But at this point in time, since the power has not yet returned to its peak, there is no way to open the eyes for the time being. Therefore, even if he doesn't want to see his subordinates killed. But in fact, Yuhabach had no choice but to avenge the dead purebred Quincy's. The only thing he could do right now, and write down the breath of Bai Chen, and engrave it in your memory forever. Wait until the future truly wakes up, and the moment war was waged against the Gotei 13. Then rely on Reiatsu perception. Find Bai Chen, the captain of Division 9, to take revenge. But, even in the future, Yuhabach really did this. I'm afraid that was a long time ago. And now, even Yuhabach. This powerful Quincy King was also alarmed. Not to mention other pure-blooded Quincy. At this time, inside the ice crystal palace, because of the destructive huge thunder beam that Bai Chen blasted, the terrifying fluctuations emitted. There was panic in the whole palace. Frightened exclamations sounded continuously. This wave is so scary. What's worse is that the auras of Kangdu and the others seem to have completely disappeared. It seems that our purebred Quincy family has completely failed in this battle. Apart from panic, every pure-blooded Quincy present, whether it is Yuhabach's personal guards or other weaker cadres of the Star-Crossed Knights, on almost everyone's face, they all have the same expression of horror, despair, and disbelief. No one expected it, because of this sudden invasion. Qian Zhaohao. The invisible empire that had survived for thousands of years actually faced an unthinkable disaster. What makes the pure-blooded Quincy even more desperate is this. As the 2 encirclement and suppression campaigns failed, many of the elites were killed in the battle. And this also means, the entire invisible empire. The entire purebred Quincy clan. If you want to defeat the intruder Bai Chen in the future, I am afraid, only Yuhabach himself takes action. Only then could we achieve it. Chapter 207 The Powerless Quincy. Advertise here. Hasward. Is this matter going to end so easily? If this is really the case, then Kangdu and the others would have died in vain. A vast palace. After a while of noisy noise, many pure-blooded Quincy stood up and looked at the high platform with angry faces, questioning Hasward, who was the highest-ranking member of the Star-Crossed Knights. Why is there no further movement? Is it necessary to let the intruders go so easily? But in this way, all the pure-blooded Quincy died. Aren't their sacrifices in vain? Especially Jadasi, Kangdu, Tigas and Ajutlong. They are the officials of the new Cross Knights. Although their strength is not as good as Bai Chen. But it is at least the captain level of powerful combat power. And the loss of several captains for no reason was undoubtedly a major blow to the entire invisible empire. To this, face the wrath of your companions. Hasward was speechless, his handsome face was silent. As a guard with Harbach, the number 2 figure in the entire invisible empire. In fact, Hasward was also very angry at the news of his companion's death. And eager to avenge Kangdu and others. But, because of this time, Yuhabach has not woken up yet and is still in a deep sleep. And in order to restore the power of its heyday, there is no way that Yuhabach can wake up early. And in the process of recovering strength, no mistakes can be made. If not, once something unexpected happens, as a result, Yuhabach was unable to return to his previous strength. Then once the invisible empire comes back in the future and launches an attack on Gotei 13. If you can't rely on Yuhabach's power to deal with Captain Yamamoto, then rely on the strength of others. It's simply not enough to defeat Shinigami. It's not enough to make the entire purebred Quincy clan come back against the odds. This is why, even if I feel the anger of my companions, but Hasward remained silent. There is no reason to give an answer. That is because, he knew it very well in his heart. First, Bai Chen's invasion was just an accident. In the original plan of the Invisible Empire, it is impossible for even a person like Bai Chen to appear in Soul Society. Secondly, even Hasward himself, he also has no absolute confidence that he can deal with the powerful and unknown Bai Chen. In case even he is defeated, then the entire Invisible Empire is truly in a precarious and dangerous moment. So even though he suffered a big loss this time, Hasward was still powerless and could only let the matter end like this. This invasion storm, it is also invisible. The original timeline has been changed. This forced the pure-blooded Quincy clan to abandon their past arrogance and realize that Shinigami was not as vulnerable as they thought. And as the newly promoted Shinigami captain, Bai Chen's strength is undoubtedly even stronger than that of the captain. And he will be in the future the greatest enemy of the entire purebred Quincy clan. Chapter 208 Time Disorder. Advertise here. The other side. The edge of the ice plains. Quote. Road. Pei Shui. Dong de cha ka. Let's get out of here. Utilize Reiatsu perception. After continuing to inquire. After confirming that the Invisible Empire will not send reinforcements to pursue it, Bai Chen turned around leisurely. Looking at the three subordinates, they looked calm and gave the order to evacuate. In Bai Chen's opinion, even if he crushed the pure Quincy twice in a row, and during the battle, with the powerful eye power of Eternal Mangekyo, he perfectly copied the power of the holy text of Thunder. #Ba. Stay in shadow space. It no longer makes any sense. Unless Bai Chen really planned to wipe out the entire purebred Quincy clan by himself. And once you do that, this will make the future timeline confusing. And there is a 100% probability that Yuhabach will be awakened in advance, and the 1,000 years of bloody war will break out in advance. And Bai Chen doesn't want the plot to evolve into this. But I hope everything goes as it should and develops according to the original storyline. Therefore, for whatever reason, at this moment, leaving the shadow space is undoubtedly the best choice. Master Bai Chen. Next, as long as we follow the Black Cavity Passage and follow the original path, we will definitely be able to return to Hueco Mundo, right? Touching his bald head, Dongchaka asked awkwardly. Do not know why. Thinking of the past, in the Black Tunnel, Bai Chen relied on his sublimated power to lose his identity as the proud thing. Dong de Chaka's heart. I immediately had an uneasy feeling. He vaguely felt that this return journey might not be smooth sailing. Most likely it will be like what I have experienced before. Accidents and changes occur. But, facing the question of Dongchaka, Bai Chen obviously doesn't have too many concerns and worries like him. Bai Chen nodded slightly. He replied calmly. Don't worry, Dongchaka, even the scavenger who was detained has been killed. Then there will be no other threats to the Black Cavity Channel and the entire world. Finished. Bai Chen waved his hand. He motioned for Nailu and the other three to follow quickly. Immediately after taking the first step, the whole person walked into the Black Cavity Passage and completely disappeared into the ice and snow plain. Please give me flowers. Let's go. You two, don't worry too much. As long as Mr. Bai Chen is here, he will definitely protect our safety. Nelu followed closely behind. After giving instructions to the two subordinate officers, Miaoman's figure also disappeared into the darkness. Finally, following Pei Shui and Dong Chaka, one after another, they walked into the Black Passage and left completely. This unexpected branching episode declared the complete end. However, wait until Bai Chen and others cross the Black Cavity. After returning to the Broken World, I suddenly discovered an accident. Killed due to sudden arrest. Moreover, the flow that would automatically close stopped moving because of the interference caused by Bai Chen's power sublimation. That is to say, in Jutu and Juliu, when both of them fail one after another. Originally, there was a certain time difference between the inside of the broken world and the outside world. But now because of the above premise. As a result, this time difference not only becomes permanent in a short period of time. And a reverse disorder also occurred. Time actually keeps speeding up. Chapter 209. Tens of millions of times the flow rate. I didn't expect that, because Jutu was obliterated. Instead, it was a mistake that caused the flow of time in the boundary to become disordered. At this time, dark and lightless, in the cutoff space where you can't even see your fingers. Bai Chen's voice full of surprise sounded, breaking the quiet atmosphere here. Even though I didn't have seconds with me, you can't see the sun or know the sunrise and sunset. 930, doesn't matter. With intuition and perception, Bai Chen clearly felt that time was passing quickly in the new territories. Such unexpected emergencies. It also made Bai Chen unexpected and even felt a little surprised. So, Master Bai Chen, what should we do now? Different from Bai Chen. The two subordinate officers, Pei Shui and Dong Dechaka, were not as calm as Bai Chen, but because of inexplicable changes. And it caused them to be filled with fear. OMG. Apparently a battle just ended. Just fighting against the entire purebred Quincy clan and being safe from the shadow space already gave Pei Shui and the others a feeling of surviving a disaster. If there is a choice, no matter what, they are not willing to experience the same thing again. But who would have thought? It's hard to get back to the dark side. and successfully arrived at the broken boundary, and it was about to return to Hueco Mundo along the original path. However, unlucky fate, a disagreement leads to trouble again. As for the so-called time acceleration, this is unheard of. Peishui, Dong Chaka, and even Nailu, the Arankars would only feel inexplicable panic. They don't even know how to change this matter. A solution. Bai Chen rubbed his chin. After pondering for a moment, he looked towards the distance, where the original Tuiya was defeated. Then he said speculatively, theoretically, Jutu, as a rule thing, even if it is obliterated, it will definitely be reborn in the broken world afterwards. This is something that is bound to happen. Hear these words. Nailu and the others expressed their incomprehension, and the doubts in their eyes deepened, and they asked, Master Bai Chen, what do you mean? Don't you understand yet? Facing the eyes of the three people, Bai Chen answered calmly, although the time of Jutu's rebirth is unknown, I can be 100% sure, once it reappears in the broken space. Then everything that has been changed now will return to normal again. That is to say, the moment the arrest appears, we can leave here and escape from this trapped space. However, Bai Chen knows one thing very well. Although everything will return to normal in the end, the passage of time cannot be turned back. In other words, wait for them to leave the boundary. Back to Hueco Mundo, a reality, and soul society. The time outside 0.7. After thousands of times passed. It is very likely that it has been months, even years, or decades. That is to say, because of this journey, inadvertently invaded Duanji and killed Jutu. As a result, Bai Chen and others indirectly experienced time travel. This is extremely unlikely, and it is a bizarre event that has never happened in the past 2000 years. Chapter 210 The Collapse of Rukia. Advertise here. At the same time, just when Bai Chen and others were trapped in the broken space. Outside world. Time flew by. More than half a month passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, in the outskirts of Hueco Mundo, where the expeditionary force originally landed. Well, it's been almost half a month. If he hadn't shown up today, Captain Bai Chen would have been defined as a missing person whose whereabouts are unknown. Among the crowd, Rukia is the adjutant of Division 9. Under the hanging black bangs, there is a face full of bitterness. Rukia looked up, looking at the dark night sky in the distance. Around the eyes, tears continued to gather, and I was almost about to cry. Yes, the past half month. 22. She first followed Bai Chen's order. Together with the adjutant and assistant, he brought the chief officers of the 9th Division back to the camp and joined the Shinigami from other divisions. Finish this thing. After completing the task, Rukia originally thought that Bai Chen would return soon. After all, according to Bai Chen, he just left for a short time to do something. Unexpectedly, Bai Chen actually lasted for half a month. But no one was seen at all, as if the whole world had evaporated. In this regard, Rukia felt helpless, also very worried. Whenever it was quiet at night, she had looked forward to countless times that when she woke up in the morning, Bai Chen would reappear in the camp. To this end, every morning, Rukia always gets up early. And he stood at the entrance of the camp, looking longingly into the distance. What a pity, not once did I get my wish. Rukia spends every day in disappointment. Master Bai Chen, where have you been? Why did you disappear suddenly and inexplicably? Even the powerful black wing demon was wiped out with just one move in front of you. Is there anyone in Hueco Mundo who can be your opponent? Rukia sighed. She really couldn't understand. Why did Bai Chen suddenly leave without saying goodbye? I'm afraid the entire Hueco Mundo, all the Manos Grande and Arankar, all put together, will not be Bai Chen's opponent, right? So what exactly happened? This will lead to the entire Bai Chen, together with his powerful Reiatsu that surpasses the pinnacle of Shinigami. Will be within the past half month. Even if the entire expeditionary force is dispatched together. I still can't find Bai Chen's aura or traces. He raised his head and stared silently at the night sky. Nothing but sad sighs. In Rukia's heart, the sadness will only become heavier and heavier. Bai Chen's sudden departure. Rukia felt very confused, as if she was lost at a crossroads, with no hope for the future. 757. Before Rukia, the reason for being able to rise to the top. Became the vice captain of the 9th Division. It was because of Bai Chen's support that she was able to achieve rapid growth in strength and status in just a few months. But now, with the departure of Bai Chen, Rukia seemed to have lost her spiritual support in an instant. Even within a short period of time. If Bai Chen hasn't returned yet. Not only will the expeditionary force return to Soul Society, the Black Chamber channel will be permanently closed. And Rukia's faith. Because of Bai Chen's disappearance, he will be in a state of despair from now on. Now, a sluggish Rukia, it's really about to collapse. Chapter 211 Leaving Hueco Mundo. Advertise here. Rukia, seeing my adopted sister so hurt. One of the accompanying Shinigami captains, Byakuya Kuchiki, captain of the 6th Division, came to her side silently. Because of being the eldest brother. And the relationship with Bai Chen is also good. Therefore, Byakuya Kuchiki, who has always been cold, also showed melancholy during the half month since Bai Chen disappeared. Actually, he had the same idea as Rukia. I'm also racking my brains and can't figure out why Bai Chen's strength is superior to all the Shinigami captains, and is even not inferior to the captain. EXX. It will be after a big battle. Just like evaporating from the world, he suddenly and mysteriously disappeared in Hawako Mundo. What makes Byakuya Kuchiki even more puzzling is that afterwards, several of their teams carried out search and rescue operations day and night. But almost the entire Hawako Mundo perimeter was turned upside down, and even Zaraki Kenpachi even seemed to kill him near Zai Palace. But no matter how everyone perceives it, but he was still unable to detect any trace of Bai Chen's breath in this white desert. Bai Chen. This one is within a year. He has risen rapidly and amazed the entire Soul Society. He is an extremely powerful genius. It seems as if it has really disappeared completely. To put it more seriously, it seems that such a person has never existed in this world. Brother, what should I do now? Rukia looked up at Byakuya Kuchiki and asked while sobbing sadly. Now, the time has come to return. Follow Kuretsuchi Mayuri's instructions and write the Technology Development Bureau's instructions in advance. The entire expeditionary force. You must enter the Black Cavity Channel immediately and return to Soul Society safely before the energy of time transmission is exhausted. If not, the final consequence will be the failure of the teleportation ability. And the Black Cavity Channel will be completely closed. And when the time comes, it will be extremely difficult to leave again. And those who stay will be trapped in Hawako Mundo for a long time. Rukia, although the truth is indeed cruel, but in the past half-month, we have exhausted every conceivable method. Byakuya Kuchiki stretched out his hand. Feeling distressed and gentle, he placed his hands on Rukia's shoulders. Then he warned in a serious tone. So, in order to consider everyone and the safety of the entire expeditionary force, we must leave Hawako Mundo before the final deadline. These words by Byakuya Kuchiki. This will completely classify Bai Chen as missing. From then on, less than half a year passed before he became the captain of Division 9. But it became vacant again. And Bai Chen's whereabouts are unknown, and he is also heading towards the high-end combat power of Gotei 13. Finally, there is a strong man who stands at the top of Shinigami. But because of a crushing expedition. As a result, Gotei 13 lost a powerful genius. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Brother, I understand. Rukia sighed. Although very reluctant, I couldn't bear to leave Hawako Mundo. Money. There was even a moment when he was so confused that he had to stay alone and wait for Bai Chen until he appeared again. But, Rukia knows very well in her heart, Byakuya Kuchiki, who cares about her adopted sister, will never allow herself to act recklessly. Therefore, Rukia has no choice. In the end, I had to follow Byakuya Kuchiki's advice. Led the members of Division 9 and left soft with the expeditionary force. Completely end this turmoil. Chapter 212 1,000 miles a day. Advertise here. Time flies. Another year passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, Seraiti, the first team building. In the team captain's office. Chojiro. About Bai Chen, there is still no news at all. Gray eyebrows. And a long beard. It hangs down like a wicker, with the captain holding his crutches in both hands. His gaze was like a torch, staring at the person standing in front of the wooden case. With respectful eyes, looking at his adjutant, Chojiro, he asked in a deep voice. Since a year ago, after learning about Bai Chen's mysterious disappearance from the returning expeditionary force. The moment I got the news, the captain felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. His first reaction was to think it was impossible and thought it was false news 330. However, Byakuya Kuchiki, Zaraki Kenpachi, and Komamura Sajin together describe what happened inside Hawako Mundo. Including Bai Chen's battle with Ulquiorra. And after the battle, he told Rukia what he said. At last, Bai Chen left without saying goodbye. After a disagreement, he disappeared into the White Desert. And follow up for half a month. The expeditionary force, hundreds of people, searched Hawako Mundo together. But no clues were found. Until the end, everyone was reluctant to return to Soul Society with regret CCEC. And that's almost a year. It's been such a long time, even the captain can't sit still. He had great hope. Bai Chen can return as soon as possible and continue to serve as the captain of Shinigami. And it is precisely because of this. So until now, the position of captain of the 9th Division is still vacant. And the commander-in-chief has no intention of establishing someone else. This identity will be permanent and reserved for Bai Chen. In front of the wooden case. Facing the captain's question. Chojiro shook his head, with a bitter look on his wrinkled old face. He sighed. He replied in a low mood. About half a month ago, with the assistance of Captain Kuretsuchi Mayuri, we tried to open the black hole again and sent a large number of officers to search the outer areas of Hawako Mundo. It's a pity that everything remains the same. Within 5 days, the search covered almost half of Hawako Mundo, but there was still no trace of Captain Bai Chen. A while ago, after doing the above things, Chojiro has completely given up and determined that Bai Chen will never appear again. And this time it was a conversation with the captain. The purpose is to completely overturn the story of Bai Chen's disappearance. After all, every conceivable method has been used. It's impossible that Bai Chen will suddenly come just based on fantasy, right? However, the captain is also good. Chojiro is also good. They didn't know it, but it was just the two of them talking at the same time. Bai Chen, as well as his three subordinates, Nailu, Peishui, Donchaka and others in Shijong are living well in the broken world. Even because of interstitial disorders. In that stagnant space compared to the outside world, Bai Chen and others are practicing at a rapid pace. Thanks to the difference in flow speed of time, the strength of all of them has quickly become stronger. Chapter 213 Nailu's Glory. Advertise here. At this time, within the boundary space, Bai Chen sat cross-legged with his knees in a meditative posture. Although in a closed space, but his aura and the looming and powerful aura exuding from his body. Far more powerful than a year ago, obviously, thanks to the broken space. Due to time disorder, even if Bai Chen didn't do anything deliberately, he just kept his breathing even and the spiritual power in his body flowed normally. Overall Reiatsu, and the degree of integration with the power of the Spirit King. Also because of the passage of time, it gradually became flawless. Even reached the peak of Shinigami long ago. In terms of strength in Reiatsu, it seems to have surpassed Captain Yamamoto. Of course, Bai Chen is not alone. Also in the same space. Nailu, Peishui, and Donchaka. Their strength, as well as Reiatsu's level, have also grown by leaps and bounds. Original. The strength of the two subordinate officers. It's just an ordinary Jillian Arankar, not very powerful. But, with the speed of cultivation doubled, and in this special space, the spiritual power is absorbed very quickly, so they also occupy Bai Chen's light. The strength is also improving by leaps and bounds. Now, according to the estimates of Peishui and Dong Chaka, their strength, although not yet enough, was directly promoted to the second stage of Manos Grande, Ajukas. But, just talk about how powerful Reiatsu is. The combat power of Peishui and Donde Chaka is no less than that of Ajukas. Lord Nailu. Thanks to Lord Bai Chen this time, a few of us were able to get a blessing in disguise and quickly improve our strength here. Looking at Bai Chen with his eyes closed in the distance. Peishui sighed with a complicated expression. At first, he was in a very panicked mood. I feel difficult to adapt to the endless darkness around me and feel panic. God's heart will be trapped here for the rest of his life. Later, as strength increases. In addition, Bai Chen and Nailu continued to provide verbal comfort during the period. Peishui gradually calmed down. And I began to change my mentality, no longer escaping and feeling panic, but instead holding a positive and optimistic attitude. To enjoy the days of being trapped within the boundaries. Please give me flowers. That's why I said that sentence just now. Yes, Peishui, you are right. Nailu nodded, looked at Bai Chen, and said in a grateful tone. A year ago, if we hadn't met Mr. Bai Chen, I'm afraid the three of us would still be living in Hueco Mundo. And it's impossible for me to recover my memory from serious injuries, and I will always remain the little girl I was before. 0. Nailu said from the bottom of her heart. As early as a year ago, she had already regarded Bai Chen as her savior, and she sincerely wanted to be loyal to him for the rest of her life. Now as the strength becomes stronger, not only did he return to his peak, but his cultivation speed also increased by thousands of miles. Nailu felt even more. Choosing to follow Bai Chen was an extremely wise decision. And Nailu felt vaguely, wait until the day in the future when they leave the world. My own strength should be able to reach the pinnacle of Manos Grande, right? Testa, King of Hueco Mundo level. This is Nelu's sixth sense. Being able to become stronger and give everything for Bai Chen is Nailu's goal for the rest of her life, and what she considers to be her honor. Chapter 214 The story begins. Advertise here. Time flies. Decades passed in a flash. Due to the long period of disappearance and the entire Gotei 13, personnel changes occurred in the following decades. Therefore, about Bai Chen, this former strongest brother genius. In the history of Gotei 13, Captain Shinigami, who was promoted the fastest, was gradually forgotten by the world. But, also because of Bai Chen's disappearance. 377. As a result, the original world line has changed again. For example, after losing Bai Chen's asylum, Rukia, who was originally protected by him and promoted as the deputy captain of the 9th Division, was later replaced by him because of his strength. And the request of Byakuya Kuchiki, who is his adoptive brother. As a result, Rukia returned to her original form and no longer served as the adjutant of the 9th Division, but returned to the Gotei 13th Division. Became an ordinary chief official. In this regard, Rukia accepted it calmly, because since Bai Chen disappeared that year, Rukia became depressed, lost the motivation to continue working hard, and her strength stagnated. Under this premise, if she continues to be the adjutant of Division 9, even if he replaces Bai Chi and becomes the captain of the 9th Division, there will no doubt be criticism. I think Rukia is simply not qualified. Therefore, taking the initiative to give in and return to the original position is Rukia's final fate. And she accepted the result. From then on, he has been keeping a low profile in Seraiti. Afterwards, he never took the initiative to show his face again and became a topic of discussion. But, since everything is back on track, And because of the loss of Bai Chen's checks and balances. So Aizen has no worries and relies on the power of Zanpakutō, Kyoka Suigetsu, to do whatever he wants in the entire Soul Society. And under his secret control, all Gote 13 were perfectly deceived by Aizen, almost every Shinigami captain and their lieutenants. Subsequent development trajectory. It is also exactly the same as the original plot. Shiba decided to leave Soul Society, but because of Kurosaki Masaki, he chose to stay in Karakura Town and settle down anonymously. The two live a happy married life. The three Ichigo brothers and sisters were successfully born. And as the protagonist, from the moment Kurosaki Ichigo was born. Just because he possesses Shinigami, Quincy and other powers at the same time in his body, he has been secretly monitored by Aizen. And the development of the plot. Naturally, the plot is the same as the original one. Aizen first relied on 5 senses hypnosis to massacre Central 46 without anyone noticing. And, later, it was also named Room 46. Ordered Rukia Kuchiki, the chairperson of Division 13. Go to this world alone. Go to Karakura Town and carry out the mission of purifying the hollow. Yes, under Aizen's control, things went as they had at first. 0.3 in Karakura Town, Rukia and Ichigo met due to Hollow's unexpected attack. And in a pinch, Rukia uses her own Zanpakutō. Penetrating Kurosaki Ichigo's body, he became a Shinigami in an alternative way. That's it. Everything is under Aizen's control. And a huge conspiracy about seizing Hogyoku and defecting to Soul Society is about to begin. Chapter 215 The Trial in Room 46. At this time, the 6th Division team building. In the team room. There was a burst of conversation. Captain Kuchiki. Did the first team just issue some special orders? That's why you solemnly informed me to come alone. Wearing a black death suit. A Zanpakutō hangs around his waist. On his shoulder is a badge representing the identity of the adjutant. From the outside, Abarai Renji hasn't changed much. She still wears her red hair tied up as she did decades ago, but she looks a little more mature and steady. However, when looking up, look ahead. After looking at the cold man in front of him, Byakuya Kuchiki. And feeling the cold breath emanating from him. 22 Abarai Renji suddenly felt something was wrong. His intuition told him that something important must have happened if Byakuya Kuchiki specially called him to meet alone this time. And this thing, for Byakuya Kuchiki, very important. So, think about it carefully. Abarai Renji immediately straightened his posture. Approach this conversation with a cautious and serious attitude. That's right. Raise your head slightly. His cold gaze penetrated the air and looked at Abarai Renji. Byakuya Kuchiki had a straight face. He showed his trademark paralyzed facial expression, and then ordered in a deep voice. The next period of time. As the vice captain, put down everything in the 6th division and focus on following me to perform another task. Low and cold words. There is no room for rejection. Obviously, this attitude, Abarai Renji's suspicion just now has been confirmed. Right now, there is indeed an unknown problem before the two of them. And it is extremely necessary to solve it. Byakuya Kuchiki. I would like to ask, what is the specific matter? Abarai Renji then asked. During this period, over at Central 46, all the sages and noble senators reached a unanimous consensus and made a verdict. No unnecessary nonsense. There's no beating around the bush. Byakuya Kuchiki looked at Abarai Renji and told in a deep voice. The current chief officer of Division 13. Also a member of the Kuchiki nobility, Rukia Kuchiki. Due to her mission to Karakura Town in the real world, she not only disappeared privately for nearly 2 months. And it is suspected that he passed his spiritual power to a spiritual power. This behavior is undoubtedly against the team rules set by Seraiti and Gote 13. When it comes to this, Byakuya Kuchiki's voice obviously became slightly hoarse. And Abarai Renji is a subordinate. His eyes widened even more, with an expression of disbelief and horror. Obviously, 830. As a captain-level Shinigami. Be it Byakuya Kuchiki, be it Abarai Renji. The two Shinigami captains knew this very well. What does this decision made by Room 46 mean? That means, violated team rules and regulations. Rukia Kuchiki stepped on the red line of the Shinigami clan. She is about to face the most severe punishment. Even though he is a member of the Kuchiki noble family and is protected by his elder brother Byakuya Kuchiki. But the final fate of Rukia Kuchiki will be brought back from this world and executed in Seraiti. This, exactly the fate of Rukia Kuchiki. It is also a tragedy that she will face no matter how the plot changes.